Good morning. Good morning, Ms. Sullivan. We might just, for the record, just take a note who's here from the bar table this morning. There's been, understandably and expected, some sort of changes of faces over the time. So perhaps I could just ask people to introduce themselves again. Thank you.
Commissioner, pleases. My name is Almas. I am here on behalf of Ms. Chapman and Mr. Tanner giving evidence today. The company of my instructions, Mr. Warwick Anderson.
Thank you. Mr. Fishpool, I know from Professional Standards Command. So, and thank you. That just clears up who's at the bar table. Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, Commissioner. I call Superintendent Scott Tanner.
By Almighty God that the evidence that you should give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If so, please say I do. I do.
Thank you. Have a seat, Superintendent. Does your client seek an objection, Mr. Gollan? Mr. Tanner, I understand that you want to take an objection when giving evidence today.
Yes, Commissioner.
And as I've said to other witnesses, it's a very sensible course of action. It's the course that almost everyone sitting in that chair takes. So, and there's nothing adverse, no adverse inferences drawn as a result of you taking that. I do make a declaration pursuant to Section 75 of the Law Enforcement Conduct Commission Act that all answers and other things given by this witness will be regarded as having been given on objection. I'll just step you through what that means. I'm sure you've discussed it already with Mr. Gollan and Mr. Anderson, but it does mean that your evidence can still be used against you for proceedings under the Law Enforcement Conduct Commission Act. So obviously, as you've taken the oath, your obligation remains to be truthful in your evidence today. It can be used for this investigation, obviously, or to allow the Director of Public Prosecutions to give advice, and it can also be used against you in disciplinary proceedings under the Police Act, in particular Section 173, Section 181 capital D and Section 183 capital A. I presume you're aware of those sections.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Were there any questions you had, Superintendent? The other formality that I need to go through is Section 62 of the Law Enforcement Conduct Commission Act requires me to go through the scope and purpose of the examination. I'm not sure, did you have a chance to review the opening of counsel assisting?
I have not, no.
The scope and purpose is, in short compass, it's the same as was on your summons. It's to investigate the circumstances surrounding the police response to a 000 call made at 7:03 on the 3rd of January 2023, reporting that a woman was being bashed behind the Salvation Army building in Ballina, including the radio broadcast and dispatch of police, the response, including the timing of New South Wales police officers to that radio broadcast, the actions of New South Wales police officers on attending the location of the alleged assault, and the decision by New South Wales police officers not to declare a critical incident in relation to Ms. Lucina's death and any subsequent review of that decision. And it's also to consider whether the conduct could be police misconduct or administrative officer misconduct or serious misconduct or agency maladministration, and importantly to consider whether there are any systemic issues that arise that could be areas for agency improvement. So that, in broad terms, is what we'll be talking about today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms.
Thank
Sullivan.
you, Commissioner. Sir, can I have your full name for the record, please?
Scott Richard Tanner.
And your rank?
Superintendent.
You are the Commander of Liverpool City PAC?
I am.
And you were tested from the Academy in 1993, is that right?
I did.
Just in terms of your background, please correct me if any of this summary isn't correct, but as I understand it, you're in GDs from about 1994 through to 2010, then as a sergeant?
Correct.
And then from 2010 to 2018 in GDs as an Inspector and Duty Officer?
Yes.
And then from February 2018 to August 2020, you were a Superintendent and the Commander of New England Police District?
Correct.
And then from August 2020 to April 2025, the Superintendent and Commander of Richmond Police District?
Correct.
And from the 6th of April this year to present, You are the Liverpool City PAC commander.
Correct.
Thank you. For the purposes of this investigation, you have prepared a Section 54 response, is that so?
Yes.
And you've had an opportunity to review that response dated 10 November 2025?
I have.
Any corrections that you would like to make?
No.
True and correct to the best of your knowledge, information and belief, sir?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Commissioner, I tender that document, which is tab 75, barcode 6641371, 86411371 to 8641408.
So that statement will be Exhibit 22C.
Now, Superintendent, I'd just like to ask a little bit about your experience with critical incidents. During your time as an inspector, were you ever a SCI, a Senior Critical Incident Investigator?
No, it was not.
Okay. Once you became a superintendent, or putting that aside, you were certainly familiar with the critical incident guidelines notwithstanding as an inspector and duty officer. A duty officer has certain roles in relation to critical incidents, that's so. Once you became a superintendent, that's in 2018, did you receive particular training in relation to the critical incident guidelines and the superintendent's role?
Yes, we did. Yes.
Right.
So as part of the Super's transition program, which was just prior to being promoted to superintendent, we received training on critical incident guidelines.
Okay. And did you receive any training in relation to a particular form that relates to critical incident declarations known as a P1179 form?
Yes.
All right. Can you outline the nature of the training that you received in relation to that form?
That was just a presentation from Professional Standards Command about that is the form that the delegate, which is the Assistant Commissioner,
Yes.
would fill in to declare or not declare a critical incident.
Just for completeness, we might bring that form up. That's tab 52, please. Barcode 8634212 to 8634215. Is that on the screen in front of you? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, don't
Don't touch it.
don't touch the screen. Just tell
It'll
it.
magically appear
It'll come up
momentarily.
magically all by itself.
So is that on the
I have
screen
that,
now?
yes.
Excellent. So that's the form that you received some training in relation to?
Correct.
As
I
a-
should, sorry,
Yes, please.
I should point out, I've relieved as a Assistant Commissioner on a number of occasions.
Yes.
So I have used this form for critical incidents as well.
Okay. On how many occasions have you relieved as an Assistant Commissioner?
I think it's about 30 weeks over the last, since about 2020.
And have you had cause to use this form in connection with those roles?
Yes, I have.
All right. Have you ever had cause to, you've no doubt declared a number of critical incidents.
Correct.
Just in general terms, what's your understanding of when that should occur?
Well, there's a specific guidelines around death or serious injury involving police firearm. There's a about, well, I've got it in front of me here,
Yes,
the criteria,
yes,
if you want me to
you
read that
do.
out. But, police operation, and there's two levels. There's a level 1 or a level 2, depending on the circumstances.
In connection with police conduct?
Correct.
Yes. And there's another category in section 111 of the LECC Act. Are you aware of that category?
Public interest?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Have you ever had cause to declare a public interest critical incident?
Not that I can recall. No, not that I believe.
Do you recall ever receiving any training in relation to what a critical incident under that category might look like?
It would have been part of the presentation during the transition program, but it is a very broad, in my understanding, it's a broad definition of what public interest would dictate.
Have you had cause to look at the guidelines in relation to that aspect at any time that you can recall, the critical incident guidelines?
I would have read them at some stage, but I don't recall when that may have been.
Okay. Have you ever completed as an acting assistant commissioner, a P1179 in relation to a non-declaration?
Yes, I have.
Okay. On how many occasions have you done that?
I can certainly remember one occasion, but possibly two, but I don't have those details with me, but I certainly have.
And what's the circumstance in which you would complete it for a non-declaration of a critical incident?
So the one that I can recall was in regards to the injury. So I was asked in regards to whether this met the definition of a critical incident, and I waited, I think it was about 24 hours to get a better understanding of what the level of injury was for the person. And then once we had that, I was satisfied that it did not meet the requirements.
Yes.
So therefore I did the non-declaration form.
Okay, so that's the one occasion you can recall.
That's the one I can recall.
And do you see some value in terms of filling out this form in relation to a non-declaration in this respect? It provides a clear account of the region commander's thinking at the relevant time in relation to consideration as to the issue about a critical incident.
Well, there's probably two trains of thought, if I could probably just deviate real quickly.
Please.
So on occasions, superintendents or inspectors will ring either the PSM or the region commander and just basically outline the circumstances of an event. Basically say, hey, I just want to talk to you about what your thoughts are around this.
Yes.
Then on other occasions, it's a case of bringing them up and saying, I want a declaration or non-declaration in regards to the circumstances.
So just pausing there, you could be seeking advice.
Correct.
Or you could have a firm view and you're basically telling PSC, this is my thinking, can you record it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the second circumstances, absolutely, where you are asking for that declaration. In the first example, it's, again, more about seeking advice and sort of, I guess, testing to see where it fits in their thinking.
And in that context, you're giving consideration to the declaration of a critical incident in the sense that you're contemplating whether or not it is or it isn't?
It could be, yes.
Yeah. Well, when you say it could be, how is it not when you're ringing up and seeking advice? Aren't you seeking advice because you're giving consideration to the issue about whether it's a critical incident?
I think you're trying to, I guess, flesh out the details about where they believe it might sit.
Yeah.
And because they're not always clear-cut,
Yeah,
there's
I accept that.
a number of examples that we could give. But so on occasions you will ring up for advice,
Yes.
or just to really, I guess the terminology is bounce the consideration
Yes.
around.
Did you say bounce the consideration around?
Well, it's probably bad terminology.
No, I think it's a perfect
But
formulation.
it's certainly a case of, some assistant commissioners would see that as being asked about a declaration or non-declaration, and they would fill this form out. Others may not be asked, or others may not be thinking they're being asked for a declaration, if that makes sense.
Right. It does in one sense, but do you agree with this proposition that even if you're talking about the category where there's bouncing around for consideration, if you complete this form even as a non-declaration, there's a clear record of the region commander's thinking, isn't there?
Yes, correct.
And that's a useful document if, for example, one finds oneself in front of a commission like this.
Definitely.
Or in a coronial.
Yes.
So it has value to complete as soon as consideration is given to whether or not a matter is a critical incident.
Correct.
Before you move on, Ms. Solomon, I just want to clarify something. You said, Superintendent, as Superintendent, you would ring, I think you said the Region Commander or your Assistant Commissioner?
So you would either ring the region commander or the professional standards manager?
Within the region?
Within the region, yes.
Okay, so I think Ms. Sullivan, you might have referred to the call being made to the PSC.
I did.
And that's...
Sorry.
No, I just want to be
Yep.
sure that we're clear about the Superintendent's
Thank you for
evidence. Okay, so
clarifying
the sort of bouncing around of these ideas, does this drop in the box or not? That's a conversation that you as Superintendent would have with an Assistant Commissioner.
Normal process would be you contact in regional, you would contact the on-call inspector for the region,
I see.
out of hours.
Yep.
If it's during business hours, you'd contact the professional standards manager and provide them the information. They would take that to the assistant commissioner. The assistant commissioner then may reach directly back into the superintendent.
I see.
Or it might come back down that chain, depending on who the assistant commissioner is.
So, but that's partly, the ultimate decision's being made by the Assistant Commissioner. It's the chain of command to get there and back.
Correct. correct.
And when you've been Assistant Commissioner, you've received that information in turn from the superintendents that you are supervising.
Personally, I prefer to hear directly from the people who have the information, so it's not getting any steps amiss.
Thank you.
When you say that, you prefer to hear directly from the people who have the information. Who are you talking about there?
That'd be the superintendent.
Superintendent. Would you ever, in your role as an Assistant Commissioner, undertake inquiries sort of directly with officers who have been involved? Or, okay. Approximately how many critical incidents do you think you've declared in your career?
Maybe 5 or 6.
And were those ones fairly clear-cut to
They
your
were.
record?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, taking you back, Superintendent, to the events in January 2023, appreciate that it's now some 3 years. So,
Ms Sullivan, before you do that, I just want to make sure that Superintendent Tanner is aware. I'm sure that Mr Gollan and Mr Anderson have reminded him. We're using pseudonyms for some of the officers
thank you.
involved. So we've got, there were 2 officers that attended as part of the car crew. Has this discussion been had with you, Mr Tanner? It has, yep. So we've got Officer C, who I think ultimately ended up meeting up with Mr Huber and coming back to the scene
Yes.
in the evening. So it's Officer C. Officer D, I'm not sure what contact you had with him. He was Woodburn 29.
Yes.
And Officer E is the duty officer on the night. If you can try and remember that, that would be great. If not, we'll just raise the flag and we'll deal with it in the transcript. But the non-publication orders remain on foot in relation to the identity of those officers.
Thank you, Commissioner.
thank you very much, Commissioner. Whilst we're on that subject, in the documentation there are names of officers. It may be necessary for me to refer to those officers in passing. Of course, they're not subject to a pseudonym. I'll try to avoid that where I can, but just for any of the media.
Commissioner, can I also rise to just make an observation? The non-publication direction and pseudonym orders, excuse me, I have not exposed this witness to. I told him that there are pseudonyms for officers by reason of their actions as opposed to who the individuals are.
I see.
And I do see it might be challenging.
I can indicate, do you have an understanding who Ballina 14 was?
Yes, I do.
An understanding who Woodburn 29 was?
Yes, I
and
do.
an understanding of the identity of the duty officer?
Yes.
And I don't think you...
Thank you.
I might tender the P1179 form, which is tab 52. I understand that this could be a public exhibit.
That's the blank
That's the blank.
P1179.
Yes.
That can be public, so that'll be exhibit number 4.
Thank you. Now, how good is your recall of the events on the 4th of January, Superintendent?
It's good. It was quite a terrible event, and it's something that I do recall, yes.
And you've been able to refresh your memory with all the documentation for the purposes of this investigation? Did you make any entries in any duty book or notebook or any notes?
No, I didn't. And the reason being is that I was at home when I received the call. It was,
Yes.
I think it was about close to 1 a.m. or a bit after midnight.
Yep.
So I've left straight from my house and gone straight to the scene. So I
Yes.
didn't have any notebooks or anything on me.
Okay.
And then I've left that scene and gone straight to Ballina Police Station and typed up the email, which...
325.
325,
Yep.
yep. Then I've gone home and I'll come back into work later that day and, again, sent another email. I think it was about 3 o'clock that afternoon.
Yep.
So all of my notes, I guess you would call them, are what's contained on the emails.
Okay, all right. But any notes of telephone calls with, for example, Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman, or meetings that you attended?
No, no.
Would you ordinarily take notes of those things?
Of the meetings or of the
Of those
calls?
types of meetings and calls?
Well, I think in regards to the calls, I think that was sort of reinforced with the emails,
Yeah.
as in more or less, this is what we discussed, this is the circumstances. Normally, if I was at the scene, I would have my notebook and I would be making notes, correct.
Okay, all right. So let's go to the circumstances in which you're asleep and your phone rings and you're told about this incident. What can you recall being told and by whom?
I believe it was from Detective Acting Inspector Mick Smith,
Yes?
but it could have been Officer E.
Yes.
I'm just not too sure about that. And the reason I say that was that Detective Acting Inspector Smith was a crime manager, and
Yep.
normally in an event like this, he would be the first point of contact, and then they would call me. So I was informed that a person had walked into the Ballina police station and said that he thought his wife was dead. Then they've attended to what is now known as Holden Lane and gone into the side of the St Vincent's de Paul, Salvation Army, I believe, Salvation Army building, and located a female deceased. They did tell me at that stage that police had been called there early in the night for a person assaulting, or a male assaulting a female.
Okay. How long was that conversation?
Minutes, yeah.
Brief. You were then, of course, the Superintendent of Richmond Police District. Where's your office in the ordinary course?
Lismore.
Okay. Are you familiar with the Ballina CBD?
Yes, I am.
Were you familiar with Holden Lane?
Not by name, no, but I was aware, when they explained to me where it was, I was aware of how to get there. So it runs
Had
parallel.
had you ever been to that Salvation Army building before?
Oh, not that I can recall.
Okay. So after that call, what did you do then?
So I prepared myself to go to work and I drove down to the scene. On the way to the scene, I made a phone call to the on-call region officer, which was Inspector Lisa Jones, and told her basically what I'd been told, and then I'd give her a further call once I got to the scene.
Okay. And that's in accordance with protocol?
Correct. Because you're firstly dealing with a potential murder, so that was my focus at that time with the information that I had.
Right. But did you also have in the back of your mind that there had been an earlier police operation in connection with that?
No, not at that stage, I don't believe so, no.
How long did it take you to get to the scene, do you recall?
Probably 15, 20 minutes.
And do you have a sense as to when you arrived?
It was around the 1 a.m, possibly a little bit later.
We have notebook entries from Officer C which helpfully suggest that you're there between 1:30 and 1:42 p.m. on scene. Does that accord broadly with your recollection?
That could be right, yes.
And that's likely a reference to you being in the crime scene, is it, as opposed to on the outer perimeter?
Correct.
So once you were on scene, what did you do?
So I spoke with Officer C and D, who I believe were on scene.
Okay, pausing there. Did you speak to them together or did you speak to them separately?
Oh, I think they would have been together, I think. But I can't be certain of that, but they were holding the crime scene from memory.
Okay. So your best recollection is they're together?
Best recollection, yeah.
All right. Doing your very best, what was the content of that discussion?
So I asked them what had occurred, and they told me about the gentleman walking into the police station and saying what he said, attending and locating the deceased lady. I did ask him about what the delay was from the time the job came in to when they got there, and they explained that they'd been and they'd also been at a motor vehicle accident on the M1.
Okay, pausing there. Do you remember if one officer was providing an account and the other was sort of more agreeing? Was there someone who was taking the lead?
I believe it was Officer who was on 14.
Yes,
so that would be
Ballina
Officer
14. If it's easier for you to refer to Ballina 14,
Ballina 14,
please.
that would be great, thank you.
Okay.
Ballina 14, as the supervisor and a very experienced officer. I do recall having a conversation with him about where they'd been up to.
Okay.
And I do not remember whether Woodburn 28 was with him or not at the time.
Woodburn 29.
29.
Okay. What was your understanding, based on what he said, about the cause of the delay in attending?
They were tied up with other jobs at the time.
Okay. Did he give you any details about those jobs?
The job on the M1, they said it was a vehicle that was broken down, I believe, on the side of the road or in lane 1, and they were having troubles with the traffic. And the other job at Alstonville, where Ballina 17 were tied up.
18, Ballina 18.
18, sorry.
Sorry, we're both wrong. It's AO 18, Alstonville 18.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the job at Alstonville, which was the crew from Ballina,
Yes. Did you have any sense of the timing during that conversation? That is, their time in attending to the first mental health issue, the second motor vehicle accident, and then attendance on scene? Or did you just understand there'd been a
I do recall, and I think I provided in the documents, that I had a conversation with a radio supervisor
Yes.
who sent me through the details of the job in Holden Lane.
I think that comes after, so we'll get
Was
to
it?
that.
Okay, yep.
What did Ballina 14 tell you about what they'd done, that is, he and Officer D, Woodburn 29, when they had attended that job initially
In Holden Lane.
in Holden Lane?
So they told me that they both got there separately and they drove up each end of Holden Lane. I believe they said they put their alley lights on, looking, it was just on dusk,
Yep.
being daylight saving, and they did not see anyone. And I believe Ballina 14 said that if there was only one call, and if it had still been going on, they would have expected more calls to have come in.
That's your best recollection?
That's my best recollection.
Okay. In your Section 54 response, you say this, you refer to this account. Once that job was finished, that job being the motor vehicle accident, they attended the call in Holden Lane, which is the location of the Salvation Army. They told me when they arrived it was just on dusk, and they drove around the car park and up and down Holden Lane, but did not see anybody.
Correct.
Is that what they told you? Or what Ballina 14 told you? You said there's a difference between the account that you...
Was there? What was the difference?
The difference is firstly, in relation to driving into the car park, and secondly, in relation to whether or not they drove up and down Holden Lane.
So, and I'm sure you've seen Holden Lane.
Yes.
It's the car park, there's the car park in front of the Salvation Army and the laneway, then there's a further car park up further. So I understood it that they'd driven up and down and around both the car parks. The car park's not very big at the back of the
Would you be
Salvation
assisted by a map that would...
Great.
All right. We will
There's
bring
a,
up tab...
Exhibit 3, which is the public exhibit, which is tab 42A.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is that in front of you now? That's the Salvation Army premises, Superintendent?
I'm just trying to get my bearings.
So Holden Lane is where the foliage is on the perimeter there.
So where the hand is now?
Yep.
Yes? And is that the Salvation Army there?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry, I've got a different photo. Hopefully. So you see the premises almost smack bang in the middle with the aquamarine roof. Maybe I shouldn't speak to you in terms of colours.
I do see that, yeah.
All right. You'd be familiar with the council chambers
Yes,
on the
I am.
left there. So
Yep.
it's to the right of that.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were describing Holden Lane
Correct.
and the
And
car park?
so my understanding was that they drove up Holden Lane,
Yes.
around the car park, and when I say car park, I also mean the one around the council chambers, which is the larger car park.
Right. So drove into the car park
That's
and
my
drove
understanding.
around. And also drove into the car park of the Salvation Army,
That's my understanding, yes.
right? And did they, to your understanding, patrol the front area, that is Tamar Street?
I don't know. I don't recall that.
You don't recall that? You don't recall ever asking that?
No, I don't.
Did you have an understanding as to whether or not they had alighted from their vehicles at any point in time?
I believe they said that they didn't get out of the vehicles at the time.
Okay. What did you think about that?
I didn't think anything of it at the time. Based on the information of the job, I didn't expect them to get out of their vehicle. I didn't know where they would search. The details of the job were in the car park at the rear of the Salvation Army, And I think they made the assumption that there was no one in the car park, and they patrolled up and down. So I don't know where they would have got out to look around.
So when you say up and down, they patrolled back down Holden Lane as well, as your understanding?
I believe so, yes. Up and down.
Up and
Holden
down,
Lane.
and into the car parks of both.
Correct.
And that would accord with your expectation about a proper response to that job, would it, if they had done that?
Yes.
What about if they'd just driven along Holden Lane and not driven into the car parks?
I still think that would suffice because that's quite an open area. I think they can see quite open into those car park areas just by staying on Holden Lane.
Okay. We'll come to whether or not you subsequently had any concerns about that, but I take it in effect from your evidence now, you do think that's an appropriate response?
Yes. Based on the information that we had at the time.
At the time, okay. Well, perhaps now is the time to just briefly explore that. You're very experienced in GD's operations, if I can suggest that to you.
Yes.
You can agree?
I can agree.
And so you would have responded to countless jobs where there's limited information and a location that has a degree of specificity but may be open to interpretation, for example, behind a particular premises. Is that right?
Correct.
And as a GD's operational police officer, does one need to have a degree of awareness about the prospect that an informant calling 000 may not be precise about that location?
Correct.
And incidents can be mobile, so that something that can start off behind somewhere can end up to the side, to the front, in the vicinity. Is that fair?
It could end up anywhere.
Well, it could end up anywhere, sure, but a good starting place when you've been given a specific address is to scope the perimeter of that area, the front, the back, if you can access it.
I don't agree with that.
Okay,
Based
tell
on
us why.
Based on this information, it came across that there was a fight in the car park at the rear of the Salvation Army.
Pausing there, female being bashed
Yep.
behind Salvation Army.
Female being bashed.
Yes,
And I don't mean disrespect at all.
that's understood.
Yeah, so female being bashed. They've arrived at that, what they believe is the location. Haven't found anyone. There was further information, I believe, that was provided by VKG that they attempted to call the informant back, who could provide no further information.
Pausing there, that VKG had called the informant back?
Correct.
That's your understanding, that whilst the officers were on scene, VKG had
I
called...
believe that was prior to the officers getting on scene.
All right.
So my understanding on the CAD job, it actually says,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong with the timing, but it was maybe 20 minutes later they rang the informant back for further details.
Okay.
And that's my understanding, and that they were met with some aggression, and then that person then was attempted on another 2 occasions to be contacted, and
Yes.
they did not answer the call.
Right.
So based on that, like that's what they have, and the timings, it was close to an hour from the time of the initial call to when they got
Yes.
on the scene. And I believe they've made an appropriate look, an appropriate patrol, looking for that.
Right. So this was a priority 2.
Correct.
It required an immediate response.
Well, that's correct. However, priority 2s come in a lot of different forms and fashions.
Okay.
So,
Tell us about that.
so they are, my understanding is that's based on the information they received, and certainly it met the criteria of a priority 2. However, there is an ability for the police to downgrade that to a priority 3,
Yes?
or, like I'm at Liverpool now, I may have, right now, have 5 priority 2s going at once. So it's about the officers making an assessment,
Yes.
basically a dynamic risk assessment,
Yes.
about which job needs to go first.
Okay.
So,
Presumably that's where they come in around the same time.
correct.
Right. So this priority 2 was the only priority 2 in Ballina between 6:38 p.m. and 7:41 p.m.
Correct.
So in that case, there's no competing priority.
They did have the job on the M1.
Yes.
Whilst not classified as a priority 2,
Yes.
certainly posed, in my opinion, a significant risk to the public and would have needed to be attended to
Yes.
in some urgency.
Yes. Do you have a clear understanding of the chronology about the attendance of those officers on that job, accepting that once they got there, Ballina 14 formed a particular view about obstruction of the road? But do you have an understanding as to when that job was broadcast?
I believe it was broadcast before the one in Holden Lane.
Correct.
By maybe a couple of minutes.
Yes.
Um,
7:03 is when that one goes over.
Yep. So they, I believe, were at Alstonville at the time.
Yes.
And the job came over at Newrybar, which is, I guess, if you look at Ballina, Newrybar and Alstonville, it's like a triangle. So they've left from there and started heading to the job at Newrybar.
Yes.
I don't know whether they copied the job at 7:05, was it, for the P2?
7:03 is when Ballina 14 copies it. 7:04 is when Woodburn 29 copies it.
That's for the accident.
That's for the accident.
I don't know when they copied the one in Holden Lane.
They copied the one in Holden Lane at 7:46.
Okay. It was
And-
broadcast?
So it was broadcast at 7:10 p.m. And at that point, Ballina 14 is en route to the accident, and the transcript indicates that Woodburn 29 joins him because Woodburn 29 is the only one with the alcometer.
Okay, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, so you haven't seen the VKG audio transmissions from that evening?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Is that something that you would ever look at for the purposes of a review in relation to the events of a particular evening, that is, the radio transmission?
Not on that occasion. I looked at the Holden Lane, not transcript, because we didn't have access to
Yes.
that, but the chronology on the CAD job.
On the CAD job.
Yep.
And we'll pull that up in a moment, but it's right that from the CAD incident log, you're able to see how many times a job has been broadcast, is that right? And do you have a broad understanding as to the requirements within the radio operations group about the broadcast requirements for a priority 2 job?
I'm not overly familiar with that, no.
Okay. So you're not aware that, for example, if a P2 has been unacknowledged after the initial 90 seconds after the initial broadcast, it should be rebroadcast every minute thereafter?
I did not know that.
Okay.
Is that your experience, Superintendent Tanner, that a P2 job, you said that, for example, in Liverpool at the moment, odds are you've got 5 going at once. Are each of those rebroadcast every 60 seconds over the VKG? I know you're not in the truck these days,
Yeah,
but...
no, and that's, technology's taken over as Commissioner a lot, so a lot of the jobs are acknowledged on their in-car devices.
The MDT.
The MDT. So they may see it pop up on their screen and they may acknowledge it.
Which is done by, that was a visual tap.
Visual tapping of the screen.
Yep.
To acknowledge it.
Okay.
So if it's broadcast, they'll acknowledge it, and then that would be it. So it would not be then rebroadcast because it's been acknowledged
Okay.
by that car attending.
But if it hasn't been, and it's being broadcast over the radio, in your experience, would they keep broadcasting it over the radio every 60 seconds?
Not that I could not say that that is my understanding, but I'm sure they would have a process in place that would rebroadcast if it hasn't been acknowledged. I quite often hear, again in Liverpool, that if they are broadcasting jobs, they will seek Liverpool 14 for a direction, which I guess is another level of supervision.
And that's the supervisor's
Correct.
car?
Yeah. And asking them to say, hey, do we either A, downgrade this job, or will you allocate it to somebody, or should we keep on calling it?
Okay.
You've never had cause to drill down to those procedures, as it were, in connection with other critical incident matters?
No.
And you're not aware of any of the evidence in these proceedings that has done that?
No.
All right. Just for completeness, we'll go firstly to tab 8, please, which is exhibit. This is the incident log for the Pacific Highway accident. That is exhibit 4C, which should pop up in a moment. Do you have that?
I do, yes.
So that's a priority 3 job. One vehicle has hit a tree in the service lane near above address. No persons trapped, no persons injured. One vehicle requires towing, no fluids, not known intoxicated person, and there's a description of the vehicle, no further information.
Yep.
So there's nothing in that report that indicates that there's an obstruction of the highway, is there?
No, there's not.
No.
However, being familiar with that area, any accident on the M1
Yes.
needs to have a swift response because of the risk that it has to other members of the public. You know, you've got vehicles doing 110
Yes.
plus on the
Understood.
highway. Yes.
Is that the type of job that, in your experience, highway patrol might attend
Normally, if they were working, yes.
if they were working?
Yep.
You're familiar with the staffing arrangements on that particular evening. That is the 4 officers at Ballina only. That is Ballina 14, the station officer, and Alstonville 18, and then the backup is Woodburn 29 and Coracai 22.
Correct.
That's the Ballina sector.
Yes.
Um,
Well, yes, so Woodburn, and I should point out Woodburn and Coracai
The lower rivers.
are lower rivers, yes.
Thank you. Is there a possibility for someone in Ballina 14's position, when that priority 2 comes over at 7:10, to actually call for highway patrol to attend this incident so that he can get the P2?
He would know if highway were on,
Yeah.
if they were working. My understanding was they were not on duty.
How did you have that understanding?
Part of the review that I did,
Yes.
I would have gone through their rosters,
The rosters.
and yeah, my understanding was that they were not working. We had no other ancillary units working that night. And when I say that, that's your detectives or your proactive team.
Okay. And you didn't have an understanding that Woodburn 29 was going to that accident because he had the alcometer?
No, I did not.
All right.
I understood that he was going there to help him with traffic control.
Okay.
And I would expect that, any accident on the M1, trying to do it by yourself is near impossible.
That's fair, but can I suggest, if we look at the staffing arrangements, when you are limited in your resources, once that 7:10 P2 came over the radio, the appropriate course was to send one of those officers to deal with that job? No? Why not?
I would not send a single unit officer to what appears to be an assault occurring. My expectation is that that is unsafe.
Okay.
And we have a number of policies around that with the single unit policy and things like that.
Okay. What policy would govern that as an alpha unit attending
That
an
would be
assault?
the single unit policy. I think they still call it the single unit policy.
Okay. Where does that sit? Is that in the handbook or?
It's an actual standalone policy that
Standalone.
sits within, I believe it'd be either HR or somewhere like that.
Okay, so you'd always need 2 officers to go to that job?
You should. So when I say you should, it's based on their experience, their understanding of the location, their understanding of who's involved. For instance, I worked in single unit stations a lot of my career.
Yep.
And you would know certain addresses that you would never go to alone,
Okay.
whereas others you may. But
Okay.
I think on this occasion, from what my understanding is, they were attending to the accident to make sure that the roadway was not impeded and there was any further danger. And then obviously they went to the job in Holden Lane.
Right. But you can see how there may be consternation about the classification system when a P2 that refers to a female being bashed, anyone being bashed, but it's a female being bashed. Priority 2, we understand that to mean immediate response. And then there's an earlier, by 7 minutes, P3, accident on the Pacific Highway, accepting everything you say about it being a dangerous stretch of road. It's a P3. So we're trying to understand the resourcing constraints
I think by labelling it, we're probably downplaying the risk of that incident on the M1. Whilst, yes, it would come across as a P3 because there's nobody injured, there's no obstruction, things like that. Being a high volume road, any distractions on the side of the road, whether it's a car into a tree that people will see going past, poses a significant risk. So I think the judgment call is basically up to the officer.
Yep.
You know, it is their experience. I had two very senior officers, very experienced officers.
Yes.
And I believe that the decision they made was a decision that was acceptable.
Okay.
If that, so say with all the time in the world, Superintendent Tanner, it sounds like you're suggesting that the motor vehicle accident was really a P2?
No, I'm not suggesting that at
Okay.
all. No, Commissioner, I'm just saying it's not a definitive scale. It certainly
Right.
has to be a sliding scale based on that officer's experience of the area
And risk,
and risk.
which is something that wouldn't necessarily be known to the VKG team who are calling it out of, I think, Newcastle.
Correct.
And in fairness to Ballina 14, once he does get on scene at about 7:21, he finds that there is a partial obstruction of lane 1, northbound, and at that point makes a call to VKG and asks that Woodburn 29 be upgraded to code red. And he's then on scene by at around 7:24 to 7:25, which happens to be the time of the second broadcast for the P2 Salvation Army job. Does that chronology broadly accord with your understanding?
It does. I did not know about the upgrading to code red. Excuse me. But yeah, that's my understanding of the chronology of the calling of the Holden Lane job.
Can I suggest, with the benefit of hindsight, it would have been helpful for you to have the VKG audio to understand those transmissions?
Oh, it absolutely would.
Yeah.
On the night?
Yes, on the
Yeah,
night.
absolutely.
Yeah, that might be something that you would ask for going forward if you had cause to review
I
something.
wouldn't have got it on the night.
Not on the night, but subsequently? Did you review it at any time subsequently?
Once I provided the information up to the AC, that's part of
Job
my
done?
responsibility. Not so much job done, but I provided information. If they wanted to review that, they could have asked me to get it, but I certainly did not turn my mind to that.
But you have done in previous matters. You have obtained it.
No, I haven't.
It never
No,
obtained the audio.
Not as part of my decision-making, because most of them have been pretty clear-cut.
I see.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Now, and you in your time as superintendent in that space, you've attended fatalities on that road, I take it?
I'm not sure that answer was recorded.
Absolutely.
He nodded his head.
No, he said absolutely.
It's on the transcript here, Mr Collins.
It's a reflection of my age, yes.
Welcome to come closer so you can. All right. But just in terms of reflections and learnings, and there's not a question, if I can put it in these terms, that the officers were doing their job on a busy shift, doing their best on the evening of a busy shift. But we do need to reflect on any potential learnings from this situation, don't we? Agree?
Absolutely, yes.
And so if you had a GD's officer call you, let's just say, with the same job tomorrow, this is the scenario, female being bashed behind this particular premises, sir, is it okay if we just do a drive-by? What would you think about that?
I think that's a very downplayed example, with respect.
Please.
They would not call about that. No one would ring me and say, hey, I've got this job. Do you mind if we just do a drive-by? That just would not happen.
All right. Well, I'll change the scenario if that's a hypothetical that you're struggling with. If you had a critical incident matter, let's say that you had a critical incident matter where there had been a scenario with GD officers, I withdraw that example. I'm really trying to understand what we can take from this situation where we know these two officers on a busy shift have attended this location but not alighted from their vehicle, so they're not privy, for example, to any sounds in the vicinity, in their vehicle, in the way that they would be if they got out. Agree?
I do recall that they turned their cars off and had their windows down. I think I have a recollection of a conversation similar to that, that they actually met, I think they met sort of in Holden Lane.
Yes. For the purposes of having a discussion with each other.
Correct.
All right, but that's a separate thing to putting your window down, to having a listen and observing what's going on around you, isn't it?
Again, based on the information they had, which was that there was a female being bashed in the car park behind the salvos.
I think Superintendent Tanner, just so you're clear, that in the car park was never part of the VKG broadcast. It said behind the Salvation Army building.
Sorry, my apologies.
No, and I just think that's probably one of the important.
Let's pull the CAT up just so we're all very clear about exactly what it was. That's tab 2, exhibit 3C. Thank you. All right, so we see there, this is the P2 that comes in at 1903 that we know isn't broadcast until 7:10, and you'll see the information is behind the Salvation Army building, 73 Tamar Street, Moon Street, Ballina, so a specific address. Agree?
Yes, correct.
Male stated a female being bashed behind Salvation Army building. So that's a bashing at that point in time, correct?
Correct.
Serious assault. That is sufficient information to identify a very particular area to search, isn't it?
It's behind the Salvation Army, correct.
All right. But behind the Salvation Army could also be the perimeter of that area, behind?
Are you saying the perimeter of the building?
Yes.
Could be, yes.
Yes. So one would look to see the boundaries,
They would, yes.
yes. And if one saw a fence there, as we know there was, it would be important to understand whether there was something going on behind that fence, I suggest.
Again, I can't comment on that scenario. That is the mind of the officer understanding what has happened with the information that he or she has.
Yes.
If you're asking me, do I expect them to get out and search behind every wall, gravity and fence, then I would say no.
I wasn't asking that. I was asking very specifically about a fence that is approximately 8 to 10 metres from where the cars were patrolling on Holden Lane, and the evidence is to the effect that the officers cannot see past that fence.
I take your word on that, yes.
Yes. So, in those circumstances, accepting that they did not drive into the car park,
Okay.
would you expect that at the very least they would drive into the car park and shine the lights down the side where you know there's a fence to have a look?
I would accept that, yes.
You would
I would accept they would drive into the car park.
you would expect that they would drive into the car
I
park?
would expect that, yes.
All right. But for example, if one got out of the vehicle, one could have a look around to see whether there was any blood.
Correct.
One could listen to see whether there are any sounds down the side of the building, anyone around.
Yes.
You're much better placed, aren't you, to make an assessment if you get out of the vehicle?
Oh, of course.
And you could do that. You could do that search of that scene. You're familiar with the scene, you've been there. You could do that, I suggest, in approximately a minute.
I would say, though, that even if you did
I'll just get you to answer my question. You could do that in approximately a minute. Do you agree?
A minute or two, yes.
2 minutes. 2 officers, 30 seconds each. They could take a side of the car park each.
Of the car park, or are you talking about the perimeter of the building?
Well, the car park has a perimeter, doesn't it?
But the building has a perimeter as well.
It does? I'm not going to take a police officer on about perimeters, and we can pull the map up if
No.
Ms Sullivan, so I'm clear, are you suggesting that the officers needed to patrol around the car park?
At this point, I'm suggesting the perimeter of the car park, walk around the car park, at least get out of the car in that car park.
I think they could see clearly from Holden Lane, though, if there was any evidence of a female being bashed. That will be clearly evident if that was still occurring. If you're asking, should they or could they have got out and searched for any blood or exhibits or things like that, that's a different scenario.
That would be evidence of a female being bashed, wouldn't it?
It could be, yes.
Yeah. And you don't know unless you get out?
Correct.
And that would be a very simple thing to do, to get out of the vehicle,
It will be, yes.
to walk around,
Yep.
quick.
Yes.
You could shine your torch down that gated area that you can't see, but you know is there because you can see it from Holden Lane.
Yep.
30 seconds.
Yes.
Yell out. Hello? Anyone there?
Yep.
So those are the things, and please understand that I do accept that the officers were doing their best on that night, but what I'm trying to ascertain is what your expectations are about operational police who are responding to a job like this. What are the lessons here?
To be perfectly honest, in which I am being perfectly
Please.
honest, the lesson here is we need more staff. We
Okay?
need more police. We need more people to join our organisation. You know, Ballina is a community of over 35,000 people. Still has the same first response it had in 1985.
Okay.
So, you know, in an ideal world, yeah, it's only 5 minutes from the police station, and we
Yes.
would have the resources to deploy.
These are very important things that you're saying, can I suggest? But can I also suggest this? You're not responding to my question because we had 2 police on scene at the time, and we know from the audio that there wasn't time pressure on them at that point to go to another job. Okay, if you accept that, I'm happy to take you to the passage
No,
about
I
that.
accept
But
what you're saying.
so we just try and understand what your expectations are about police attending this scene, and if there are lessons to be learnt about how GDs doing their best should approach a job like this. Do you have an expectation they should get out of the vehicle and scope the scene for a couple of minutes at least?
I go back to the fact that what was based in the CAD message is that they based their response on that.
Yep.
And if they were satisfied they didn't see a female being bashed behind the building, you know, close to an hour later, then their response was appropriate on the night with what they had. As a lesson learnt, absolutely, these 2 officers will most certainly, and as an organisation, possibly reinforce that, you know, we need to be a bit more intrusive when we don't find what we're looking for.
What do you mean
Now-
by a bit more intrusive?
Well, as you're saying, get out of the car, search around, shine torches, things like that. But
Can I suggest they're not intrusive measures, they're pretty basic measures. Can I just suggest that?
well, you've got to understand as well, we would get hundreds of these type of jobs.
Well, this was the only P2 from 6:38pm to 7:41pm, okay? And there's no time pressure on these officers at this point in time, okay? So if you
I'm
could...
trying to explain the response,
Yes, please.
okay, as in, this is the information they had.
Yes.
Their responses, in my opinion, was adequate for that response that they provided on the night.
Okay. And so in terms of a case study for the academy for GD officers, do you think this is a good example of the need
Not
to...
for me to say. That's for the educators.
Well, given your long experience in GDs as almost an expert in that space, do you think that there is something that should be conveyed? You're a senior officer. We're trying to make sure that we pick up on all the systems issues, and we'll come to the resourcing point because that's really...
Will we?
We will. I promise you we will. But there's a lesson here, can I suggest, in terms of the need for GDs responding to an incident like this to be more thorough.
I will accept that.
I think we can move on.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, going back to the chronology, the discussion that you had with on scene with Ballina 14 and possibly Woodburn 29, how long was that discussion?
Would have been no longer than 5 minutes, I would not imagine.
Okay. And did you speak to anyone else on scene?
I believe the detectives were there by then.
Yep.
And Officer E, I believe, arrived at... I can't believe Officer E was already there or
Yep.
later.
Okay. And did you have a discussion with her on scene?
I do recall that, yes.
What was the content of that discussion?
About what else had been happening, because that officer was the duty officer on the night.
Yes.
So I was getting an overall picture, not only of Ballina, but also, you know, Lismore. So on occasions, when Ballina are run off their feet, we'll deploy Lismore staff
Yep.
down to assist. and they told me that they had quite a busy shift that night as well.
Did you know that there were some Lismore staff who were attending to P4 matters at about 7:12 that night?
A P4 matter?
P4, priority 4?
Yeah, I know but what was the matter? Like, what?
It's as it says file. I can show you the CAB message, but was that something that you looked at in your review?
When I did my review, it appeared to me that the two response vehicles and I believe the supervisor were going from P2 to P2 in regards to assisting the hospital and the ambulance, I believe,
Yes.
mental health.
Yep.
And there may have been one other job there, I can't recall. So I'd have to have a look at what that P4, who was doing the P4.
Okay. Only because you've mentioned it, and I don't mean to belabour the point, because you've made it clear that you conducted a review, but if we could perhaps bring up tab 137, page barcode ending 814, please.
Exhibit 18C.
Thank you.
Do you want the barcode number again? Is that, can we have the
Barcode 814. The full barcode, sorry, is 8636814. Has that come up yet? No. No. Okay. Perhaps you could just assist us with what a definition of a P4. I'm throwing that term around as though I know it.
It's an administrative task.
Okay. Right, I think that's come up on the screen. Can you see that, Superintendent?
So that's at 1912,
Yes.
off at William Blair, Canelabar.
That's one of the Lismore response units, Lismore
Correct.
15.
Correct. So they went off there for a file.
Yeah. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of that, no, sorry. Was that in part of my review?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
I was under the understanding that they were at a P2 at the hospital.
So that is at 7:12 p.m. That would be 2 minutes after the priority 2's just come in.
Yep.
So that unit may have been well placed to respond to that job.
And looking at that appears to be a single unit officer that attended that. If you look
How do we find
under
that
officer
out?
details,
I see.
it's got just the one registered number.
Would you expect to direct a Lismore car, a single officer Lismore car to Ballina to respond to a P2 job?
Only to back someone else up.
Superintendent. Okay, so only if there's someone else on scene and you need back, and then presumably it's Lismore to Ballina is what?
Half hour.
Half hour, so you'd need, the first officer that's already there would need to wait until the Lismore officer joined them so that you can go 2 on scene, is that?
Again, I should say, depending on the level of the P2.
Yes, and what you already know about the situation and perhaps the people involved.
Yes.
I'll just indicate there's also another Lismore 15 P4 matter at 7:01, from 7:01 to 7:06. Would you like to see that as well? Yes, please. So 806 is the last 3 digits of the barcode. Just go backwards. This is, of course, before the P2 comes in.
Again, same officer, single officer for a follow-up.
So that officer is attending to administrative matters, it
It appears
appears.
to be.
but-
Just for clarity,
Yes.
would you mind if I had a look at the response that I provided in regards to my
Oh,
review?
please feel free to refer to anything at any time.
I just
So-
want to make sure that sometimes they change cars through the
Yes.
night, so 15.
So are you talking about your 3:25 a.m. email? All right, so we'll pull that up. That is in your response, tab 75, Exhibit 22C, at barcode ending 375. In fact, no, I think it might actually be the 311 is your resourcing review in the afternoon.
Was it?
Would that
Yeah,
be?
it could be. The one where I said
Is
where
that
all the car
out? I
groups
think
were.
that's 311. We'll go there instead. So that's the same exhibit. 386 is the barcode reference. Thank you. So if we go to the next page, we've got Lismore down the bottom there.
Oh, sorry.
And then see, this is your summary.
Do you want, which page do you want?
387, sorry, is the,
Go back a
Go there
page.
now, Commissioner. So at Lismore, you had, the custody, the supervised station officer, etc.
yes,
Urgent assistance at the hospital at 1833, back on at 1850. And the concern for welfare at 1909. And the P2 at 1942. So I, not being an expert in the CAD system,
Yeah.
when I've done my review, I dare say they didn't bring up the priority 4.
okay,
You would have only done the 2 and the 3s,
yes,
hence why I would have missed
missed this.
that one.
Okay.
So they were certainly not deliberate, but
No, and I'm not suggesting that, but it is a relevant circumstance, isn't it? That,
absolutely, and certainly with the discussion I had with Officer E, they expressed how busy they were that night
Yes.
with mental health.
But this raises the prospect, doesn't it, that, for example, Lismore 15 could have backed up Woodburn 29 to go to the P2.
You could have, yes.
Yeah. Right. Is it an appropriate time for a short break, Commissioner?
Let's do that. 20 minutes, we'll be back at 11:35.
Thank you. Commissioner, I should indicate, I just indicated to Superintendent Tanner that it was fine for him to have a copy of his Section 54 response in front of him to refer to, so
that sounds-
he now has that.
Very straightforward. And on topic of exhibits, I think I have made a mistake in numbering the public exhibits that I did this morning, so if we just correct that. This P1179, the blank exhibit, which is tab 52, should be exhibit 5,
Thank
not
you,
exhibit
Commissioner.
4. So, I apologize.
We have requested a copy of the court book, and that has been denied. And we press our request for the court book, given witnesses are giving evidence by reference to it, exhibits are being displayed. That seems to be a modest request, and there doesn't appear to be good reason why that should be refused.
So we don't have a court book in this jurisdiction, Mr Smart.
The book from which barcodes are being read.
So the commission brief.
Yes.
Yeah. So the usual practice as an investigation in this commission is that, for obvious reasons, matters are not necessarily disclosed to parties before they give their evidence, and matters are instead unfolding. In my understanding is that almost without exception, all of these matters, any of the CAD documents, all of that would have been known to your client as the Commissioner of Police. They're almost all police records, aren't they?
Some of them are.
Which are the ones that aren't police records that have taken you by surprise?
Well, none so far, but the difficulty is we have trouble following along the questioning of witnesses. We don't have the same barcode numbering as you do. Obviously, there's been a large amount of documents produced. And obviously, the time will come where we will need to give consideration to tendering documents. And it's most helpfully done, I would say, from the book given to the Commission. Now, if there's some special reason why there's some document that shouldn't be disclosed, it's hard to see how that is, given that a lot of them are police records and this is a public inquiry, then
It's an investigation brief, so we should be precise about the terminology, firstly. And secondly, it may be my oversight, but I had understood I was clearly identifying quite a limited subset of documents, for example, in relation to incident records that would be available to the Commissioner. So, for example, the incident, the Salvation Army CAD incident, the Newry Bar accident incident, they're readily available, I would have thought, those documents to the Commissioner and identified as such.
Yes, but again, the difficulty remains that practically we can't navigate them to them quickly.
On your screen, Mr. Smart.
Yes, but we can't, we're taken to particular pages, we can't
Yeah.
move between pages. And again, we don't see the practical problem with them being provided. Noting that, you know, the rules of procedural fairness require some kind of equal footing between the parties, even though this is an investigation. Serious misconduct findings are theoretically possible, given the announcement of scope and purpose. And those rules would seem to require that we have access to that information, the same information that you do, Commissioner.
I'm not sure that they allow you to have access to the same information that I've got, Mr. Smart, as this is an investigation, not a court proceeding. So the rules obviously are quite different in that context. So, and I'm well aware of the rules of procedural fairness, but thank you. Certainly an order was made at the outset that any exhibits that are being tendered are certainly able to be made available to you. Let me reflect on that over lunch and consider that request further, but at the moment I'm struggling to see why. I understand that you might like to be provided with a copy of the exhibits so that you're able to see the full exhibit at the time. I'm not inclined to, at the moment, to provide you with the Commission's investigations brief. We tab that in advance for our own convenience. Matters are in there that may never be put to any of the witnesses there. And unless they're exhibited, they wouldn't be relied on by this Commission in reaching a decision, but they're matters that are collected as part of the investigation. So in that sense, quite different to a court brief or even to a police brief that's being prepared as part of an investigation. Yeah,
I understand there's a difference. I think the nub of the issue is how different.
and you would like to have access to the documents that are being shown to the witness?
Yes.
Yes. And certainly once they've been tendered as exhibits, you're entitled to have access to those and they can be provided by the end of today.
Yes. But I think you understand what I want and I understand you're going to reflect about that.
Yeah. I'll reflect and see if there's anything in what you've said that I've missed. I can indicate now a copy of the Commission's investigation brief will not be provided to you. That's our investigation brief that we use, and I don't see that there's anything in procedural fairness that requires you to disclose, the Commission to disclose to the parties at large what it is that we've compiled as part of our investigation. If there's matters that the Commission will be taking into account as part of its decision-making process, then obviously the obligations of procedural fairness are to make sure that you have an opportunity to look at that material.
Yes.
And reflect on it and to make whatever submissions you wish to do so.
I suppose there are two scenarios. One is they're all police records.
Yes?
In which case it doesn't seem to me to be a problem with disclosing it. Or two, there's some police records and some other things, and the other things might be probative of certain issues and we don't have access to them because they're not police records. Now, there may be special...
But if they're probative and I'm relying on them, then as a matter of procedural fairness, then we would provide them to you.
But they may not be, they're only relied on if they're tendered. We may wish to tender things.
You're at liberty to tender whatever you wish, Mr. Smart.
You may not have the records, that's the point in this scenario. So, all we know from our perspective is there's some body of documents, call it whatever you want, from which things are being shown to witnesses and from which documents are being tendered.
Mm-hmm.
Barring some reason as to why we can't have access to them, it seems sensible to allow us to have access. But I understand what you've said about that. That's my position.
I understand your position.
Commissioner, can I also ask this issue? Can I join my friend in this submission? And it's not so much the access to the exhibits, it's a matter of whether or not other documents within the body of material that should be exhibited because they bear upon the exhibits or the evidence that they're given. Now, I clearly don't have the same access that my own friend does because I'm not acting for the Commissioner. And in circumstances where documents are properly understood, it's often relevant to have a look at their shouldering documents to see what was done before and what was done afterwards, rather than it be constrained to the thought process of a particular counsel assisting. With that great respect, I'm not suggesting anything other than that's the way in which it's seen, but it could be seen differently through other eyes. And so I join my friend in the submission, and I would, I've heard the exchange, and I don't have much more to say other than to amplify the point that it may be that there are documents there that, in our opinion, bear upon a proper interpretation of the exhibits that are before you for you to consider.
Which you haven't had an opportunity to obtain through your clients, Mr.
Correct.
Gollard. Could you just elaborate for me before Ms Sullivan rises to address on the issue why you wouldn't have an opportunity to obtain
Because-
any shouldering documents through your clients?
Well, my clients are individuals, they're not a corporation, as it were. And so it would be improper for me to ask for the corporation's documents in circumstances where I haven't issued a process, being the nature of a subpoena or otherwise, because it affects the interests of other parties that are within the police force, other individuals that are within the police force. So we've been constrained. I be candid with you. When it all started, I said, "Where's the brief?" You know, I need to get busy on this before I go and help you this coming week. That was last week, and I was restricted to the documents being the responses that the police officers had given. And I've had an opportunity to do that. I expressed in writing last night I haven't cross-pollinated any of the witnesses by exposing them to other people's documents, and have expressly told them that that's not permissible and it would do them no service to inquire of their own cause. I would like to have a look at the documents that may shoulder some of the tenders to see whether or not there's more context that can be given so that you can properly understand the response.
Commissioner, I'm unclear what is meant by the phraseology documents that may shoulder other documents, for a start. This is an we'll have an opportunity to do that if the Commissioner determines, but this is an investigation, as you have indicated, Commissioner, to the extent the material is relied upon adversely to the interest of a party, it must be disclosed, and that is the course that we are undertaking at the moment. And if there is a need for either of my friends to have more time in response to any material that has been disclosed on the screen, and they need to access a particular exhibit to ask further questions, I'm sure, Commissioner, that could be dealt with. But I am somewhat unclear about the difficulties that are arising in circumstances where the CAD incident reports that we have gone to, I've been over a number of times. They're readily available to the Commissioner. I'm struggling to understand the difficulties in relation to the concerns that have been raised about procedural fairness to date.
Let me just assist my learned friend. Shouldering documents, an example would be within clinical notes of medical record, and you have a focus on a particular note, but the notes that are on either side of it might give context to that particular thing. It's exactly the same as an undertaking of an investigation or police performing their functions. There are some records that record what they did, and there are other records that are the progenitor to what they did or are otherwise distal to it at first blush, but they don't give any context to it in the absence of knowing what else is in the room.
And they wouldn't be caught by the Section 55 notice that's been issued to all of your clients to produce whatever relevant records to the Commission, records that are relevant to their response to the Commission?
Commissioner, with great respect, I don't know that. I don't know whether or not there is another document that sheds light because of my own experience acting within the police force or acting for them, and that there would be another document here or there'd be another document there, or someone else has said something and that's given context by reference to the later document that becomes part of the tender. It's a matter of us not knowing rather than that we have any confidence that that's the limit of the beginning and the end of that particular function or inquiry. And that's the reason why I raise it.
Ms
We're not dealing with medical records, we're dealing with quite particular police documents. And if my friend has concerns about whether or not he has an accurate compilation of records that relate to his clients, he should make those inquiries. But we had understood that the universe of relevant material in relation to his clients had been produced in response to the Section 54 and 55 notice. And I should also say this, it's unfortunate that poor Superintendent Tanner has been subjected to this procedural argument because it ought not to occur in the presence of a witness.
I think I understand where people are coming from. I'll reflect again over lunch. I think you've heard my preliminary views. If there's anything about that changes, we'll deal with it before the witness returns. Ms Sullivan. Mr Tanner.
Take you back to the crime scene. Sorry, we're back there. At the point in time where you have taken some photographs of the scene and sent them to Assistant Commissioner Chapman, is that right?
Correct.
What areas did you photograph in particular, if you could just...
So I believe I did the car park, or standing in the car park to the back of the building, and then at the side of the building down to where the deceased was located.
Yes.
And then the area in which the deceased was located.
Do you remember approximately how many photos you took? Was it just a couple or...?
2 or 3. It would have been 3, I would imagine.
And
I have tried to find those photos, but I cannot locate them.
Okay. And were they attached to an accompanying email?
No, they were sent by text.
By text, okay. And do you remember the content of the text?
It would have been on the back of a discussion I've had along the lines of you wouldn't have seen where the person was located due to where it was, and I sent those photos to her to reinforce that.
Okay. Of course, when you went there, it was dark.
Correct.
When the officers went there, it was light.
On dusk.
Dusk,
Yeah.
thank you. All right. Did you have a discussion, well, on scene, did you have a discussion with Assistant Commissioner Chapman?
Yes.
What was the content of that discussion?
So I went through the whole event from go to woe and explained what I could see, etc., with the photos and things like that, and discussed the aspect of the police response and whether it did meet the critical incident guidelines.
Okay. You raised that matter at that point in
I
time.
believe I did, yes.
And what did she say in response to that?
At that stage, I understand she was not satisfied that it did meet that criteria. Did not. Did not. Sorry.
Had you proffered a view about whether you thought it might?
I agreed with her.
You agreed that it didn't at that stage, based on the information?
Yes.
But it was certainly under active consideration. Is that a fair...
That is fair, yes.
Okay.
And I guess bearing in mind it was very early in the incident.
Yes. By that stage, it would have been just within an hour or so of Miss Lucina's body having been discovered.
Correct.
Right. So then you returned to the station, is that right? Ballina Station, that's the next
Correct.
sequence.
Yep.
And once you got there, what did you do?
That's when I reviewed the CAG message and then formulated the, if I may...
Yes, please refer to... So this is the 3:25 a.m. email?
Let me see.
I think that's...
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
And that's where I did some background checks. So
just for the record, I just note we're at tab 75, Exhibit 22C, barcode 375 is where that email is.
We might bring that up on the screen so that everyone can
Thank you.
see it. So tab 75 and the barcode number again,
Is 375.
ending in 375.
Thank you. Come up for you? Okay, great.
You can refer to your own copy, Mr Tanner, if that's easier. It's simply a matter of making it easy for everyone else.
So the purpose of, I guess the purpose of this email...
Yes.
So it's, I guess I'm acting with two hats. You know, I'm doing my commander role and we have a serious crime, being a homicide, so we need to brief up in regards to that, but then also once asking the questions about whether the response by police was appropriate or could be deemed a critical incident.
Okay.
So the contents of this email,
Yes.
the 3:25 email, was the background of the deceased and the alleged offender,
Yep.
how the incident unfolded, and then basically what we've got in place to manage that.
Okay. Had you, in terms of the incident and the information set out about Ballina 14 and Woodburn 29 being tied up with the MVA, etc., had that come from CAD, or was that the information they'd told you?
Both. So they told me,
Yeah.
and then I think it was the VKG supervisor sent me the email about 1:44 a.m.
Yeah, so that is at barcode 400. We might just pull that up in the same document. That was a request that you made when you were on scene, is that right?
Correct.
The files that are attached to that email, let me pull it up.
Yes, I've got those. Yep. So that's the.
What are the files that were attached?
So that's the CAD log for
Log.
the original job at 1903. And then the second one is the CAD job, which was created when they re-attended it 12:40 a.m.
Thank you. And so that information you then incorporate into your email of 3:25 a.m.
Correct.
Just in terms of the reference that you make to the location of body is at the side of the building behind two gates and no lighting available, what did you mean by that?
Can I just see where that is?
Yes, please. So it's a penultimate bullet point under incident.
Okay.
So we'll go back to page
Oh,
375.
sorry, I'm on 376.
376.
Correct. So that's where I'm incorporating both, I guess, trains of thought about the actual incident, but also highlighting any issues that may need to be considered for the critical incident.
Okay.
So I just wanted to highlight, and that was the content of this email.
Yeah.
It also, I guess, reinforced or summarised the conversation we'd had on the phone. So there was a record of it.
Okay. But neither officer had told you no lighting was available? Do I misunderstand?
No, I think you might misunderstand that. So there's actually no lighting at the side of the building
I see.
where the deceased was located.
I see.
So it's in complete darkness
Right. At the time that you attended?
at whatever time it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. And then you set out the current status of the investigation in terms of the allocation of an OIC and the strike force being convened. And you note the region commander informed and briefed, that's Assistant Commissioner, Acting
Correct.
Assistant Commissioner Chapman.
Yep. So this basically then becomes the notes because I didn't have my notebook.
Okay, thank you. And then you indicate, I think at the bottom of that email, further information to be supplied as the matter progresses through the day, in appreciation that it's still early days. All right. After you sent that email, what did you do?
I would have gone back home. I think I went back to the scene
Yeah.
just to check on the welfare of the staff. And I think by that stage, I think they were still waiting for crime scene to arrive and things like that. I have a recollection we recalled maybe some staff to come in and do some crime scene.
Yeah.
But it was just general welfare / tasking. And then I went home. I think I arrived home, I think it was just coming up light when I got home from memory.
You had a quick sleep
A little sleep, yes.
and
then,
came back in at about midday, is that right? And what happened from midday?
so then I made a call to Ma'am Chapman
Yes?
on the back of, she sent me an email saying info sent through the decop.
Yep.
When you're available this morning, can you give me a call?
So is that the email that she sends you at about, is it
7:29.
7:29?
Correct.
Thank you. Right, and so once you get back in, you call her in response to that?
Correct.
And what conversation do you have at that time?
I think prior to that I might have got an update on the investigation.
From the OIC?
From the OIC.
Yeah,
I do have, that would be my normal course. I would come straight back in, I would ring the crime manager and say, give me an update of where we're at.
okay. Can you remember what happened in that conversation? You remember what you told
That would
her?
have all been around, crime scenes attended, the offenders in custody, the processing,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff.
The status of any witnesses they might have been able
Correct,
to identify?
because there was the the gentleman that made the call with the phone and that aspect of the investigation as well.
And the Salvation Army workers?
And the Salvation. That might have come a little bit later, but
Okay.
it certainly was contained in my email that
At
afternoon.
3:11 p.m.
Correct.
Yep.
So I would have received that information from the crime manager.
Yep.
And I would have relayed that to Ma'am Chapman. And I do recall, whether it was in that conversation or certainly before that email was sent, that I was asked to do a review of the workload at the time.
Okay. And what was the purpose of that review, as you understood it?
I took it to further inform her about her decision-making to whether call it as a critical incident or not.
As to whether there should be called a critical incident, right?
Correct.
Do you remember at about 1 p.m. that day having a Teams meeting with Deputy Commissioner Pasanos?
I have a very, and I don't mean to be dismissive, but I was quite fatigued and I don't actually have a recollection. I know we had a meeting at some stage. I don't know whether it was 1 o'clock or when it was.
Yep.
But if
Was
you
that
tell me-
day, on the 5th, on the 4th?
I couldn't tell you if it was that day or the next day, but if you have records that indicate it was that day, I would accept that.
We only have some notes from Assistant Commissioner Chapman as to there
Then
being
onwards.
reference to a 1 p.m. meeting with Deputy Commissioner Pasanos. So
Correct.
there was only the one time that you spoke to him?
Correct. As
on-
in, one time the three of us spoke together. I believe.
Okay, right, so that clarifies it. And what was the purpose of that meeting?
Again, twofold. Firstly, to tell him about the job because it's a horrendous matter.
Yes.
Then also to inform him about the decision-making around critical incident or not.
Okay, to inform him.
Correct. He was part of the discussions to, I guess, because he's not the delegate to call a critical incident.
That's the Region Commander's call?
That's the Assistant Commissioner's call, yes.
Yes.
But I think it was to, I guess, satisfy him that our thought patterns aligned with what he thought of the information that we had.
Okay.
So it was a review, maybe you would best call it.
A review as to whether or not it was a critical incident?
Correct.
Do you remember broadly how long that call was? Are we talking sort of an hour or
No,
15
it wouldn't
minutes?
have taken, I think it was probably around the half an hour mark.
Okay.
And we stepped through everything that we knew at that stage. I do recall that there was a discussion saying that if it wasn't a critical incident, there was enough oversight, like there'll be obviously a criminal investigation, a coronial investigation as well. But I do distinctly remember saying, I think that's when they asked me to do the review, about go and see where the truck crews were and all that kind of
But
stuff.
pausing there, when you say there's a coronial investigation, what's different in terms of what's done for the coronial?
I think that goes further into the police responses. It could also, another layer, another lens over the police response as opposed to a critical incident.
Right, and was there discussion about a DV homicide review during that meeting?
There would have been, so there's always a DV homicide review that's conducted after every DV homicide.
Okay, tell
But
us
that
about
does not involve
what, who has responsibility for that? Is that State Crime Command? Or?
My understanding, it does sit somewhere within state crime. It's certainly, well, actually, it's probably sits with the DV registry or the DV command now.
Yeah.
But I do know from past experience that there is a review conducted.
Okay,
And that looks holistically, not so much just at the police response to that incident, but, you know, whether AVO is in place, what engagement have they had with police in the past, all that kind of stuff.
okay. Is it the function of that review to identify deficiencies in the police response?
I'm not too sure what the function is of it.
Okay.
It's outside my wheelhouse, so I really don't know.
Were you asked to arrange or to speak to the people who are conducting the DV homicide review? Clear about that?
As clear as I can be.
Okay.
Unless you can
That's
tell
pretty
me
clear.
differently.
No, I just need to make sure that that's your understanding.
Yeah.
And just to be clear, is that something that is arranged by the OIC, who's conducting the substantive criminal investigation, or is that undertaken by another unit?
I think it's state crime.
I think it's state
they're the ones
crime.
that organise it.
Okay. Did you speak to the on-call homicide consultant at any point? That's not your role. Okay. Can I just test to see whether any of this information prompts your recollection about what may have been discussed during that conversation? You provided information on the current investigation plan. Is that accord with?
Yeah, I think that's part of the investigation about trying to find the person with the phone.
Okay.
Yep.
And Superintendent, Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman confirmed that she had requested that the DV homicide review include the police actions from 1700 hours and had initiated the region response as part of the investigation. Do you remember that occurring?
I do know the region response, absolutely. But the notes about the DV homicide review, that would have been a discussion that she would have had with state crime, I would imagine.
Okay, you don't think that was discussed during that meeting?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Well, not that I recall, I should say.
Okay. Was there a discussion about media?
Yes.
Okay. And you were the one who was nominated to do that media briefing?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a clear recall, do you, that whether or not the matter was a critical incident was discussed?
Yes.
And that was an important function of that meeting, was it?
Correct.
Okay. All right. After that meeting concluded, or was it canvassed during that meeting, or had it already been decided that you would do a further review of the workload and staffing?
It was from that meeting.
From that meeting it came out. Did you have a conversation with Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman after that meeting in relation to the review, or as in what the types of things you should be doing?
I may have. I don't recall it.
Don't remember.
I may have.
Okay. And so
We
then
were sort of tic-tacking all day, if that makes sense.
it does. And then at 3:11 p.m. you send your email. We'll go to that. That's at
Yep, that's correct.
tab 75, Exhibit 22C, barcode ending 386, please. So this is your email.
Yes.
We see there's the information in relation to the investigation, and by that stage you'll see the second bullet point is 2 workers from the Salvation Army have provided statements. The POI and Vic have been at the Salvation Army the last couple of days seeking help and rough sleeping at the side of the building. And it goes on, these 2 workers last saw the POI at 9:30 p.m. last night. When they arrived, they heard the female yell out to the POI, alerting him to the presence of these 2 workers. Do you see that?
I do.
That was significant information, wasn't it?
Correct.
Because it suggested that Miss Lucina may have been alive at the time of the police canvass or
Correct.
drive-by. Agree?
Agreed, yeah.
Then we see... Had you seen those statements, I should say, those
No.
2 statements? That's just information that's conveyed to you by
That would have been the briefing from
the OIC.
Crime Manager.
Okay, Crime Manager, thank you. So then under the heading review, you say, I've reviewed the staffing level and workload from last night, and then you set out a breakdown of the available vehicles and staff.
Correct.
And we've touched on this. The 703 P2 is in red.
Yes.
What was the purpose of highlighting it in red?
Just to indicate that's the job that we're talking about, for no other reason.
I think
I did the same. Sorry, I did similar with the previous email about, I think, about the bail
yes,
person being
the
reviewed
police had
by police.
yes,
Yep.
to highlight significant information.
Correct.
Okay, and I think is there anything else about your review there that you'd like to? We have touched on this in an earlier this morning.
So the only thing I'd like to raise
Yes.
is the 1909 concern for welfare,
Yes.
422 Ballina Road.
Yes.
So Lismore 15 obviously acknowledged and attended that. That was a similar time, was it not, that one of them was listed as a file?
I'm sorry. After the
So there was one you showed me.
Is that on the next page of this document?
One you showed me earlier with a
sorry,
priority
we
4 job.
just pause one moment, Superintendent. So that's barcode 367, the next page, if we could please move. So everyone can follow. Thank you. So yes, the P4 that I showed you, is that what you're referring to?
That's right, yeah. I just wanted to make sure those timings were correct because it seems...
I'll find my little chronology. So the relevant P4 is Lismore 15, off at from 9:12 to 9:18.
So that's where when I was saying before about sometimes they use different cars but use the same call signs.
Yep.
That one to me indicates they were going to Lismore 15 was going to the Concern for Welfare at Ballina Road at the time that they were also attending a file job.
Right.
So I think when you asked before about that, well, I hadn't seen it, I think because that was a file and a P4, it may not have been the first response vehicles that attended,
Okay.
if that helps in any. It may not, but...
So the suggestion that Councillor Sisting put to you earlier that Lismore 15 was doing a P4 filing job
Correct.
at that time is inconsistent with that dot point that suggests that 1909 they're in fact doing a P2 concern for welfare.
Correct.
But could they not have attended that job immediately in response?
It might be a completely moot point, Commissioner, but I just wanted to
fair.
highlight that.
What was the time again, Ms Sullivan, of the apparent P4
The
being...
P4 comes in at 7:12
Right.
and is dealt with between 7:12 and 7:18.
What address would you mind?
It's Gunalaba. I just don't necessarily want to read the person's name onto
Oh, no, just all I'm trying to indicate, because of the saying, and then they're at 1919, a minute later,
Yes?
they're off at 422 Ballina Road, Lismore Heights, which is some distance, like you wouldn't get from Gunalaba to Lismore Heights in a minute. You know, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. So the inference I'm trying to draw is that potentially they were using two separate vehicles, or someone else was calling Lismore 15 as well,
Right.
which happens quite often.
So designating that vehicle as Lismore 15, there's actually two vehicles there, but we're just not seeing
It could
that.
be. So, for instance, like Ballina, Alstonville 18 was the response car,
Yes?
where normally Ballina 15 is their response car. So depending, some police will jump into Alstonville 18 and call it Ballina 15. I know it's confusing as all buggery. Terrible word. Sorry, I probably got to withdraw that. So what I'm suggesting is that someone, whether it was the station constable or the custody officer, may have been using a vehicle they thought was Lismore 15, calling off at a file, when the response crew who are in Lismore 15 could have been Kyogo 23,
I see.
another vehicle. That's, I guess, what I'm trying to get at.
Okay, that's a possibility. Is it also a possibility that it is Lismore 15?
I highly doubt it, only because of the timeframes. When you say calling back on at 1918 and then a minute later you're at Gunalaba.
Okay, so the concern for welfare that comes in at 1909, that's a check bona fides, isn't it? That is Telstra advised caller requested police on transfer, caller terminated, nil callbacks due to payphone, no further information. That's that job?
Correct.
Right. That doesn't sound like a job of grave severity, if I can put it in those terms.
I'm just putting it out.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that further explanation. No, don't apologise. All right. So, other than that, are there any other matters in relation to that review that you would wish to draw to our attention before we move on?
No.
Can I just ask the source of, or confirm, the source of the information about there being no other units on duty who could respond, such as the Highway Patrol, detectives, PCT, what's that?
It's Proactive Crime Team,
Okay, CPU?
Crime Prevention Unit.
So that information came from the roster?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Now, can I just, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but there's a telephone call that is referred to by Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman at around 9:15am. This is exactly as you said, you were tick-tacking during the course of the day. Can you recall speaking to her at about 9am?
No, I can't. Sorry. I must have been at home. I don't recall that, no.
All right. Her account is to the effect that during that call, you conveyed that you were satisfied that police attended as quickly as they could.
That would be my yes. I would have said that, yes. That was
And-
my standing on it.
And that they had patrolled the front and the rear of the premises with nil find.
Okay. I don't recall the front part of it, but certainly the rear.
Okay. Do you think it's unlikely? It's unlikely you said that?
It's likely, as it's either or.
Can't say.
I can't say.
That wasn't your subsequent understanding, was it, that they patrolled the front once you, for example, obtained their statements?
Sorry, could you?
Once you obtained their statements, that is of Ballina 14 and Woodburn 29, did you understand?
I didn't obtain their statements.
You never reviewed their statements?
No.
Right.
That would have been part of the brief, which yeah.
Was that because you didn't think it was necessary, Superintendent Tanner, or because it was part of the brief and you were deliberately keeping yourself away from it?
Once it was not declared a critical incident, Commissioner, that was my involvement with that side of it. I would have kept an eye on the proceedings, but certainly I would not have reviewed anyone's statements that I can recall.
Okay. Do you recall being directed or requested by Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman to review those statements?
I may well have. I said I don't recall that. But if she made records of it and said that I did, well, then I would take her that I would have, but I certainly do not recall it.
You don't recall being told to do that?
I don't recall both. I don't recall being told to do it, and I don't recall doing it.
Okay. And is it likely that you would recall doing it, given where we are now?
Nearly 3 years ago, it was said I'd been up most of the night. If it was on that day that they took the statement, I don't even know when they took the statement.
I'll tell you the chronology. We understand that on the 4th, in the evening of the 4th of January, Officer Ballina 14 prepares his statement, and then on the 6th of January, Woodburn 29 prepares his statement.
So is the indication that I reviewed them after the 6th?
Correct.
Okay, I don't recall that.
Okay. And if you had reviewed them, is it likely that you would have sent an email by way of update indicating that you'd done that?
I would have assumed so, unless I'd had a conversation with Ma'am Chapman and she made records of it, but I certainly do not recall.
There are no such records to that effect, if I can...
No, not that I can find. No.
Does that suggest it's unlikely that you did then review those statements?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's as I said, it's as likely as I did as it is unlikely that I did it. But I should frame it this way. If Ma'am Chapman had asked me to do it, then I would have done it.
Okay.
But I do not have any recollection sitting here today of reading those statements.
All right. But you've very carefully set out your initial review at 3:25am and the review in the afternoon at 3:11pm.
Correct.
And by the 6th of January, it's still a relatively fresh incident. Things are still unfolding, agree?
Correct.
Can I suggest that it's likely that if you had reviewed those statements, it would have been important for you to make a record about your findings by way of, for example, another updating email?
It probably would have. But what I would suggest is that if there was nothing in those statements that changed my view from my original 2 emails, then perhaps I made a phone call to Ma'am Chapman and said, there's nothing
I see.
out of the ordinary. I don't know whether she received those statements or not, whether she reviewed them herself. I have no recollection. I could check my emails to see whether I did.
Could you do that?
When I prepared this notice, I don't think I went to the 6th of January. I think I just did the 3rd and the 4th, perhaps the 5th, but I certainly don't remember the 6th. So I can certainly do that.
Yes,
Get back to the Commission.
please, thank you very much. That would be...
Maybe I'll just formally make a call under Section 69, Subsection 2 of the Law Enforcement Conduct Commission Act for any emails relating to this matter from, shall we say, the 6th to the 10th of January.
perhaps to the 15th.
6th to the 15th. And when I say relating to this matter, I'm talking about the police response, not matters dealing with the homicide investigation. which I understand you still kept a kind of watching eye over as it happened.
And is it likely that during that discussion that morning, that is at 9:15 a.m, there's still the issue of the critical incident quite live as between you and, yes, you don't recall any discussion about that, I take it, but...
I don't, I apologise. No.
Okay, and I'm sorry to be jumping around, but in that discussion, do you remember any reference to the DV homicide review process?
The 9:15?
9:15 call?
I don't recall the call, so...
No. All right. Can you recall at 9:15 a.m. or any time that day a discussion about whether there should be a walkthrough with the officers who attended at 7:55 p.m?
I don't recall that, no.
No. Is it likely that if that was discussed, that's something you'd remember? A walkthrough?
I would think so, yeah. So was it a walkthrough for the critical incident part or for the homicide investigation? Because quite often, the first responding police homicide will get them to walk back through the scene to say what you saw, and that would have been...
It's a discussion about a walkthrough with the officers who attended at 7:55 p.m.
Okay. It could have been part of the homicide investigation, and that would have been discussed with the crime manager and homicide,
Okay.
if that's what that refers to.
That's not your note, so I'm just trying to see if we can prompt any recollection on your part. All right, thank you. Now, we've canvassed the Teams meeting, just to be clear about who attends that. That's Deputy Commissioner Pasanos, Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman and their respective staff officers?
Normally, yes.
Normally?
Yeah.
And yourself?
And myself?
Do you have a staff officer?
No, I don't.
Okay. Right. I think we've covered the content of that. Do you recall seeing a situation report about this matter that evening?
As in for the homicide investigation, yes.
All right. We might pull up tab 56, please, which is Exhibit 19C.
Yes,
I'm
I
up
have.
for you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Superintendent. Do you see, and just to be clear, so this is a SITREP report on the 4th of January at 6:53 p.m. It's prepared by the crime manager, is that right?
It is prepared by, Sergeant Michael Smith, who was the acting detective inspector, crime manager.
And it's been vetted by Officer E, the duty officer. You have no role in approving the content of this
No.
document, I take it?
No.
But do you recall seeing it?
Yes.
Do you see under the heading current position, there's an update on the homicide investigation. Do you see that it then says police were delayed in their response by other priority 2 incidents occurring in the area at the time? See that reference?
Is it in current position, did you say?
Under current position, it's the 4th line down.
Oh, yes, I do. Police were delayed in their response by other priority 2 incidents occurring in the area at the time. Yes, I see that.
Did you read that and appreciate that that was inaccurate?
I think that encompassed the Lismore crews as well.
Right.
But
Well, in terms
I
of
would
the...
say at Ballina, that is inaccurate.
And then you see there at 7:55, police patrolled the area but were unable to locate anyone. Attempts were made to contact the original informant, but no one answered the phone. To the extent that one reads that sentence as suggesting that those officers attempted to call the original informant, that's not right, is it?
Oh, I don't take it from that.
How do you read that?
I just, attempts were made, doesn't say that the officers who attended and made those attempts.
Right.
Can I ask Superintendent Tanner, would it normally be the case that the attending officers would try and call an informant back, or are those...
Normally the radio operator.
So that's the radio operators that try to get all the information they can from an informant and then they relay it on?
So the attending police would ask, radio, can you contact the informant back to see if there's any further information? If they have no luck, on occasions, the officer attending may try and do that themselves, but it's been my experience that majority of the time, it would be the radio operators being asked to do that.
Okay, and so anyone, Other senior officers reading this sit rep would also have that understanding.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's, I guess, why we view it differently.
Who does the sit rep get disseminated to?
A variety of people. So it'll go to the senior management team for Richmond.
Yes.
It'll go to homicide, it'll go to the police media, it'll go to the region, it'll go to PSC, and then there's a variety of other ones you can actually tick if you want to add.
Okay. Who's responsible for disseminating it?
Most of them are just done automatically.
Okay.
Then it's up to the vetting officer to pick any additional ones.
To go broader than that standard?
So it'll go to the state coordination unit in real terms, and that's probably the backstop. If they pick it up and they go, oh, this should have gone to X, Y, Z, they will then forward it onto there as well.
Okay. Can you recall, we're moving on from that document, can you recall any discussion during the course of the 5th of January with Acting Assistant Commissioner David Driver at PSC? What can you recall about that discussion and when it was?
So I think I've got an email, if I can refer to
Yes,
an email.
please.
So I did send him both emails that I'd sent to Ma'am Chapman and others.
Yes. So we can bring that up in your response. That's Exhibit 22C, tab 75, and the barcode is 381.
So there's one that I received back from now Assistant Commissioner Driver.
1215.
1215, yep. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate the update. This addresses the questions I had.
Right, that's a barcode ending 383. But then...
I think we'll just get that up on the screen, Ms. Sullivan. And then move on.
in fact, that includes the complete exchange, so we'll just stay there. So we see you've sent to Acting Assistant Commissioner Driver at 9:54 a.m. your email of 3:25 a.m. saying, "Sir, as discussed, thanks."
Yes.
Was that after that discussion? Earlier that morning?
That's correct.
Same day.
He rang me that morning,
Yep.
from my recollection, because he would have received the SITREP in regards to it, and we had a discussion about the critical incident, like why was, well, I'm sure there was two discussions, and I don't know how to approach the second discussion because it involves a member of the family of the deceased.
Please don't go there. Yeah, we don't need to. There's no discussion in relation to this aspect, is that right?
No, that's right.
So-
Yeah. So on this particular front, it was just about the decision-making around, or the question was asked about the critical incident, and I sent him these two emails, and I stepped him through these two emails on the phone and said, this is the reasons why.
So you were on the phone as you were discussing these? You forwarded them whilst...
No, I would have forwarded them, well, I would have forwarded them shortly after
Shortly after.
the discussion,
Okay.
correct.
Right. And what were the issues that he was raising?
I don't think there was so much issues. I think he was just questioning, how would you put it, the decision about it not being a critical incident, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's when I sent him the information. And his response being that addresses the questions I had.
He was satisfied?
Yes.
Okay. Did you speak to Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman about the discussion with PSC?
I don't know. I would assume I would have.
Yes.
I could confidently say that I would have, yes.
Okay. All right. At around 10 a.m, there's a suggestion that there may have been a discussion between yourself, Acting Assistant Commissioner Chapman, and Superintendent Greg Thomas about the independent review by homicide of police actions. Do you recall that occurring?
I do have a recollection of that, I do.
All right, what can you recall about that?
And that's where I guess I was talking about earlier about the coronial and the discussions that we had with Deputy Pizzanos
Yes.
and Ma'am Chapman. That the homicide review or the homicide oversight could potentially also be seen as another layer of independence from the decisions or the information that I provided to Ma'am Chapman about the critical incident. So,
Level
I
of
do recall
independence in what respect?
that. Well, I guess like for any critical incident, as you know, it's an independent command that comes in and reviews the actions of the police. So this is my staff. I'm reviewing it
Yep.
to ensure there was another layer of independence, another layer of review. The homicide squad were going to do that.
Who had arranged with the homicide squad to do that independent review?
So if I was on the call with Mr. Driver and Mr. Thomas,
It's not Assistant Commissioner Driver on that call, it's Assistant Commissioner Chapman
sorry, yep,
and Superintendent Greg Thomas.
so that would be from Ma'am Chapman
Yes.
and Superintendent Thomas. Certainly something I wouldn't have instigated. I'd have no ability to instigate that.
Not something that you would have instigated, did you
No.
say?
No,
Right.
well, I would have no power or authority to get that appointed.
Okay.
That would be something that'd have to come from the region.
That would have to be Assistant Commissioner Chapman, or would Superintendent Thomas have the
It
capacity?
could have been him as well. He was the operations manager at the time.
Do you recall if you do recall that meeting?
I do recall that now that you mention it, yes.
Do you recall if there was any discussion about providing a review of whether the officers attempted to get to the side of the premises
I don't recall that, sorry.
or follow up with the informant at the time?
I don't recall that, no.
Now, just as a matter of completeness, at 1:15 p.m. that day, Assistant Commissioner Chapman has a note which reads to this effect: spoke with Superintendent Tanner, awaiting officer's statement but will prioritise review. Okay, so that's a note in her diary. It's not a note that you made. Does that prompt any recollection on your part?
What date was that, sorry?
That is on the 5th of January.
So that was on the 5th. That wasn't the day that I sent the review email through, was it?
You send the review email on the 4th.
Yep.
And of course, as I indicated the chronology, we have Ballina 14 preparing his statement on the evening of the 4th and Woodburn 29 on the 6th of January.
I don't recall that, no. I'm sorry.
Do you remember at any point being aware of a statement from a particular witness who's given evidence in the Supreme Court, but Miss Hudson Moon, about seeing a man standing in that side area next to the Salvation Army, standing up and walking around, swearing, crying out? That statement was never brought to your attention? That would have been significant to you?
It would have been, absolutely. Do you know when that statement was taken?
I do know. It was taken on the 5th of January.
I was not aware of that.
And then, of course, that information would have been put together with the information you did know about the Salvation Army workers attending at 9:30 p.m.
Sorry, can I just clarify?
Please.
That statement you're talking about,
Yes.
that wasn't the Salvation Army?
It's not the Salvation Army. It's a person who's walking her dog in a westerly direction on Tamar Street, and at 7:20 she makes those observations.
That's the very first I've heard of it.
All right. Would that have been relevant to your assessment as to whether or not this might be a critical incident? Appreciating you don't make that call.
Any further information would have been, yeah, critical.
But that's of particular significance, isn't it, in terms of the timing about Mr Huber's movements at that point in time?
So she's saying, and not being privy to the statement, she indicated that she saw someone down the side area.
Why don't I, instead of me summarising it for you, we're going to pull it up. No, not at all. It's I should have gone there. So it is at, I think, tab 39 of the brief, which is barcode 8628996. It's a short statement, so once that has come up. Come up for you?
I had, sorry, I'm just
Excellent,
reading through it,
thank you.
sorry. Is there a second page to that?
There should be a second page, yes. scroll over to 997.
Yep. Thank you. So the officer that took that is not attached to Richmond PD. He would have been part of the regional response.
Okay.
But yeah, certainly that's the very first I've heard or seen that statement.
That's an important document, isn't it?
It is an important document.
And we might just, while we're here, go to tab 41, please. I'm sorry, I should tender that statement.
That will be Exhibit 23C.
Thank you, Commissioner. If we can go to tab 41, please. This is a statement, again, of a person who gave evidence in the Supreme Court, so we can say his name, it's Mr. Leadbeater. This is tab 41, barcode 8634089 through to 8634094.
I'm not going to be able to read that on
So, no, so there's just a particular page that I want to draw to your attention. 093, please. Paragraph 12, you see there with it's got a star next to it.
yeah, it's still waiting to come up.
Oh, sorry.
There we are.
Yes.
So this is a statement I should indicate on the next page. We can go there in a second, but it's taken at 12 p.m. on the 4th of January. And so if you could just read, please, Superintendent, at paragraph 12 and following. Once you're ready for the next page, let us know.
Oh, can we just, sorry,
Oh, sorry.
can we just go back? I'm a slow reader, sorry. Thank
No,
you.
I wasn't there either.
I'm fine when the Commissioner is.
Go to the next page now.
Is that saying Tim? Sorry, just for...
It does say Tim, but it is a reference to the lady. I understand her nickname was Kimmy, and so he may have misheard that as Tim.
Thank you.
So that's another significant statement, I suggest.
So that is the statement which I alluded to in the
Yes.
email.
So that tells us that Mr. Huber was in that gated area from about 7:20 at least to 9:30.
Correct.
And that raises the clear possibility, doesn't it, that if police had gotten out of the car and looked down the side, they would have seen him?
Well, it raises a couple of things. If obviously that information had been provided to the police that attended, that would have given them a better location to go and search as well.
What do you mean by that?
So if the people, so this gentleman who made this statement
Yes.
and the lady who made the other statement called police on the night and said there's a person acting aggressive at the side of the building, that would have given further information to the original call
Sure.
for the police
I
to
see.
focus on that area.
Yep, there's that aspect, yes. What about my proposition?
Can you repeat your proposition?
I can. The fact that Mr. Huber is there between 9:20 and 9:30, as per these witnesses, raises the distinct possibility that had the officers gotten out of the car, they would have seen him. I'm very happy to specify when. had the officers gotten out of the car when they arrived on scene and looked down the side fence at 9:55 p.m.
So 7:55.
I'm sorry, that's my 24-hour clock. 7:55 p.m. There's the distinct possibility they would have seen Mr. Huber
If he was still there.
if he was still there. Do you have a doubt about that?
It is. I'm not going to say it directly in front of the witness, but we should look at Exhibit 1, paragraph 430, Justice Rothman's judgment about this statement, because it's highly relevant to the questions being put. My submission is that being put on a misleading basis.
Perhaps, I think it can be dealt with in very short form, and I don't think it's a difficulty that the witness is here, but it's in relation to the position of Mr. Huber. It's not in relation to what is said by the female. And the aspect that wasn't accepted by Justice Rothman concerned whether or not there was calling out. So I don't think it changes the basis of the question with respect.
Do you still press your objection, Mr. Smart?
I do. There's also, again, I don't want to say this in front of the witness and exploit the evidence. But
Do you want me to ask Mr. Tanner to step down from the witness box so we can have this conversation?
I think we can do it quickly and directly without doing that. If you look at paragraph 430 of Exhibit 1,
My friend can clarify. He's just referring to the decision. It's not
Yes.
necessary that it be in evidence. It's the decision of King and Huber, 2025, New South Wales Supreme Court, 714, at paragraph 430.
Don't bring it up on the screen. So paragraph 430.
Content to read that onto the record just for completeness. While I do not consider that the precise time of death is particularly important in these proceedings, I do not consider the description of Mr. Ledbetter of hearing what he thought might have been the deceased at 9:30 p.m. reliable. It's likely that the deceased died at or about 7:20 p.m, but she may well have been deceased when Miss Hudson Moon saw her, but it may be that she died just after 9:30 p.m.
what is the best evidence we have, and it doesn't seem to be contradicted or sought to be contradicted by counsel assisting, is the deceased is dead by 7:20. So all of these hypotheticals about what police could have done or should have done after, I say, aren't relevant, and that's a misleading basis for questions being put to this witness. Because unless there's some suggestion that that's incorrect or not probable, that's the situation we're left in.
I didn't understand that to be counsel assisting's question. I understood it to be, had police got out of the car at 7:50 p.m, they might have seen Mr. Huber. Not that they might. Is that correct?
Precisely the position.
Yeah. No, I am not suggesting that that might have made a difference to Ms. Lucina. Simply, would they have seen Ms. Huber? Have I understood your question correctly, Ms. Sullivan?
That's right. And Justice Rothman is specifically, he caveats his position in relation to time of death, and that will be the subject of the coronial. So I think it really is up in the air in terms of the complexity of that expert evidence that was heard. And I don't think that matter can be determined on the basis of the material before this inquiry.
Does that assist Mr. Smart?
Brings us back to my original point, which is, I think it should be put to the witness as to what we take out of the statement when the witness was considering this issue of critical inquiry back then, rather than just asserting it as the fact that it may have been the case that Mr. Ledbetter saw Mr. Huber at 9:30 p.m. now. It's basically the information he has at the time, rather than seeking to draw inferences that go beyond that and the information.
This is not a discussion that should be had in front of the witness. That's the first thing. We've really gone into the details in a way that is undesirable. The second thing is that the question stands.
I don't think I'm not following, I'm afraid, Mr. Smart. The question, as I understood it, was There's independent witnesses that see Mr Huber at 7:20. There's independent witnesses that see Mr Huber at about 9:30. We know that from their witness statements. That they say they see him.
That's the distinction I'm making. So there may be an issue at the end of the day as to whether they actually see Mr Huber at 9:30 p.m. And so that's why I'm saying it should be put in terms of the information the officer had, rather than facts that are controversial or may be controversial.
So are you suggesting that we should not assume that those witnesses were accurate when they say they saw it?
Yes, and there's no question of dishonesty or anything like that, but Justice Rothman has made at least one key finding: this witness evidence is unreliable. And so at the end of the day, there may be an issue as to whether other parts of the evidence are reliable. And so all I'm saying is that it should be put based on the information the officer has, and then we can make submissions at the end of the day about what the facts really are.
And the officer you're referring to is? Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood that. Ms Sullivan, do you want to have a go at rephrasing?
I think I can just approach it in this way. Those two statements are important, aren't they? The two statements that I took you to.
They are.
And if you'd had that information available to you at the time you were doing your review, it would have squarely raised, again, the issue about a critical incident being of particular concern.
So the witness said they saw, so the lady that saw him out the front in Tamar Street.
7:20.
7:20. And the police arrived on scene at 7:55.
55.
So there's no, I guess, indication or evidence that he was there at 7:55.
Well, there's no indication that he left. There is, in fact, CCTV footage that suggests that captures his movements en route to the police station when he goes to report at around 12:30. We could show you the helpful screenshots that have been prepared from that CCTV. But
I guess, I think the question is, what was the question again? Sorry.
well, the question is, accepting that there's no evidence that demonstrates that Mr Huber is seen at 7:55 to 7:59 in that gated area, you accept that there is a very reasonable inference that he would have been there because he's there at 7:20 and he's seen there at 9:30, or reportedly seen there at 9:30 by Mr Ledbetter.
Object. Your Honour, this witness should not be asked to infer the kind of assumption upon which that question proceeds. And regardless of what he says, it's not a matter that can assist the Commission with respect to matters of their inquiry. The assumption proceeds on the basis that he's seen there, whether or not it's actually him or someone else, I don't know. But he's seen there at 7:20, and then to bookend that, another assumption that there's 9:20 or whatever it was. What the question proceeds upon the assumption is that there's a continuity of presence over that period of time. The witness should not be put in that position.
I appreciate where Mr Gollan's coming from. I think the question perhaps, Superintendent, is had you had those two, the earlier statement as well as the information about the later apparent identification of Mr Huber, would that have changed your view about whether a critical incident declaration was warranted?
So we had the information about the second.
The second one,
Yeah,
yes.
So that was available.
Yes.
I didn't have the information about the first
No.
one. I would have provided that information to Ma'am Chapman.
Absolutely.
Which would have, I guess, given her, it's probably a better question for her because that's her decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
My view sitting here now is that I don't know whether he was there at that time or not, at the time that the police arrived, if that answers that other part of the question. So I cannot say.
But you would have been in a position to speak to the OIC about any other evidence about his movements that night, correct?
So the homicide.
Correct.
Speak to him about the movements of Huber.
Yes, of Huber, yeah.
I don't know whether I had that conversation with him or not.
I understand that, and you certainly didn't have the statement that of the witness at 7:20, so we appreciate you've got an incomplete position. But if you had that statement and there was a doubt in your mind about whether or not Mr Huber had been there at 7:55 p.m, you would have been able to undertake inquiries with the OIC about any other evidence to suggest whether or not...
Correct.
Yeah, and no doubt you would have done that.
Correct.
Thank you. I'm coming to the end. Can we just, for completeness, show you a copy of the statements of Ballina 14 and Woodburn 29, just to see if that refreshes your memory about whether you did review them, okay? Tab 3, please, if we could, which is on Exhibit 14C. Next page.
Yep, yes, please.
Okay. Any of this ringing any bells?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Next page, please.
Next page, thank you, Monitor.
Yep.
Don't know that we need to go into the details of the arrival of Mr Huber at the police station. So
Oh, no, I'll just get to the bottom of
Okay.
where the incident, when they leave. Yep, that's fine.
Does that ring a bell?
It doesn't ring a bell, but it certainly doesn't raise anything different to the view that I formed when I sent the emails to Ma'am Chapman.
Okay.
But that's it. I will undertake a look through
see.
my emails to see what they did.
Would you like to see Woodburn 29s, or that's unlikely to refresh your
I
memory?
don't think it'll refresh them.
Okay.
I would imagine they'd be quite similar, unless I'm wrong.
They're broadly similar. All right. Just want to ask you some quick questions just to round out. Did you ever hear the outcome of the any DV homicide review? Were you aware of any formal decision that had been made by Acting Assistant Commissioner not to declare this a critical incident?
As in a non-declaration?
Non-declaration?
No, but that's something I wouldn't get as a
You wouldn't be
superintendent.
told, yeah.
Would you be told if it was declared?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But was there a point where you understood that a decision has been, as opposed to a declaration, a decision had been made that it was not a critical incident?
Well, that's correct, yes.
When do you understand that decision was made?
Going on the notes that you've read about Ma'am Chapman, I think sometime after the 6th, I would assume. But it's not so much, I guess some people look at it as a progression,
Yes.
as in, okay, we get to the point and now we're going to say no critical incidents. Other would go, well, let's just keep on going along to see whether it is a critical incident,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think that it never reached the threshold that would be called as a critical incident. So therefore then I didn't receive any notification back that it wasn't.
Not a matter for you because you're not declaring it, but it's simpler in some respects when there's anxious consideration being given to a critical incident to declare it and then revoke it when the position becomes clear, can I suggest?
Sorry, can you just repeat that once?
Sure. In circumstances where senior police, region commander, superintendent are giving anxious consideration to whether or not a matter is a critical incident, one course is to declare it and then revoke it if it later becomes clear that it's not actually a critical incident. Do you agree with that proposition?
So declaring, I will get to the answer.
Yes.
So declaring a critical incident also places a lot of stress and pressure on the police that are involved.
Okay.
And that's got to be balanced up with public interest and all those other guidelines. So if you are sitting on the fence...
Because they become involved officers, have to undertake the drug and alcohol testing, interviews.
Not so much the drug and alcohol testing and the interviews, but I guess it's the assertion that they've done something wrong.
I see. Stigma.
Stigma, cumulative effect. Someone who's been in the cops for a long time, it might have been through numerous of these. So personally, I would not err on the side of, hey, let's just do it and then downgrade it. I would wait till I am completely satisfied that it does meet the criteria, and then you're not placing that undue stress on those police.
That's the central consideration in your mind in terms of that?
No, it's not the central, but that is a consideration.
It's an important consideration.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a good point that I must say I hadn't appreciated until you articulated in those terms. Thank you. But in circumstances where something might be sort of in a grey zone for a period, how significant is that factor in not declaring and then revoking? Is that the primary consideration in that?
No, and I don't think you lose anything either. Like, if you were to say today we're going to make this a critical incident, I don't think you haven't lost any evidence, you haven't lost any evidence, I guess, because there's all the other investigations going along with it, which you would draw all your information from.
Well, can I just challenge you about that in this sense? A critical incident investigation has broader scope, for example, going to systems, policies and procedures like Radio Operations Group, for example. And this commission has heard from the Radio Operation Group operators who have very frankly conceded a number of breaches of protocols. They're now giving evidence 3 years after the event, so their evidence is what might be described as a bit stale.
Well, absolutely, but the evidence is still available. I guess what I'm getting at is the evidence of the transcripts and the evidence of the catalogues. That information's all still there.
Sure, but
So
the quality of the evidence is affected if a critical incident is declared later. Do you agree with that?
That's correct. But I guess I'm taking to the extrapolation of a 3-year event. If you're talking about days or weeks, and we are seeing quite a few of these now where, information develops over the time, and sometimes critical incidents are being made, weeks later.
Right. What's the latest that you're aware of, a critical incident being called?
Oh, gosh. I couldn't tell offhand, I don't know, but certainly more than a week.
Okay.
Certainly more than a week.
You'd lose effective drug and alcohol testing, though, don't you?
And
if you don't,
I guess that's the only thing you do lose, correct.
And potentially CCTV from local businesses if they've got, say, a 7-day overwrite sort of function.
Yeah.
But is there anything else in that kind of time-critical bucket?
Not that I can recall. Memory is pertinent.
And memory, yeah, okay.
Sorry. Unless there was anything else on the critical incident component, Commissioner, I was going to move just to some final quick questions. This is your opportunity to speak to us about resourcing and recruitment, Superintendent, and the systemic issues. I know we've drilled down into the granularity about the incident, but we'd really like to hear from you, as a very experienced senior officer, about what you think are any systemic matters that have contributed and any learnings.
So I let my emotions get the better of me earlier on when I suggested, and I don't want to, and particularly for the media, I don't want the community to think there's not police out there available to respond. Okay, so there's a very important point I want to make.
Yep.
But it is no secret, and it is in open forums, and everyone is aware of it, that there is a shortage of people wanting to join the police. We have the positions available. 2,500, close to 3,000. Community expects a lot of their police, and rightfully so. But in communities, in regional communities, the ability to have a police on every street corner or respond to every job within minutes is limited by a number of factors, namely having the people filling those positions. So that's really critical. But I just want to make the point that I'm not being critical of the organisation for that. It's a worldwide phenomenon that people aren't joining the police. But probably the most important point I want to make is that to Miss Lucina and her family, this is an absolute tragedy, and as a commander, I take these things very personally when a person is subjected to this horrific crime. Obviously, I was getting a little bit emotional, but we turn up every day as cops. My police at Liverpool do over 400 domestic assaults a month. We take it extremely seriously, and one death is too many, and this lady went through absolute hell, not just in this incident, but her previous experience,
Yes.
and certainly through the floods, which we were all affected by. So I really want to just pass on my thoughts to the family, that we all grieve the loss of someone in these circumstances. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Nothing further, Commissioner. Oh, I'm sorry. After that, I need to now tender tab 41, please, which is barcode. Perhaps I read it onto the record. Barcode 8634089 to 8634094. It's the statement of Mr. Leadbeater.
And you took the officer to... Oh, no, the other one was tendered, the statement of Officer C.
Yes.
Okay, so tab 41, the statement of Leadbeater will be Exhibit 24C. Can I ask, in a moment of self-reflection, Superintendent Tanner, do you think the kind of scrutiny that this Commission and other parts of the public put the actions of police under, is that something that impacts on people's willingness to join the police force?
Absolutely, Commissioner. You may or may recall I was down here for a previous matter some time ago where 4 of my police were found no misconduct. All 4 are now exited.
Mm-hmm.
One has lost his marriage. He's in a real bad way.
Yep.
So, no one asked us to do this job. I'm not asking for sympathy or anything like that, but it does play a big part.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we might take the luncheon break and then come back for any examination by other
I was
council.
going to suggest that after some questions as short as I can.
I think Superintendent Tannen might prefer
Unless
that we
you-
sit on if...
Unless you,
I'm easy. I'm fine.
if it is short, and then we can let the superintendent go back to...
I'm sorry to do that to the superintendent, but I prefer to reflect on it so as to shorten it.
Compose myself, Commissioner, that would be good.
All right, we'll take a luncheon break. We'll be back at 2. Thank you.
Commissioner, please, as I've been asked to move myself up here so I might be more readily understood.
Or at least heard.
Quite. If it's convenient to the Commission, I intend upon just now addressing the witness.
Any questions that you've got for the witness, Mr. Gollan? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Officer, you asked a couple of questions earlier on about the categorisation of critical incidents, and I understood you to refer to some guidelines, those guidelines that are made available through the police force to you.
Yes.
And you're aware of the legislation in the Law Enforcement Conduct Commission Act?
Yes.
And that they reflect each other, in that the guidelines reflect upon the legislation itself.
Yes.
Now, in this particular circumstance, there can't be anything said that the situation arose out of the discharge of a firearm,
Correct.
and there can't be anything said that there was the operation of defensive equipment,
Correct.
and there can't be anything said that there was physical force by a member of the police force,
Correct.
and there can't be anything said that there was the misuse or otherwise use of a police vehicle,
Correct.
and this person, well, the circumstances didn't give rise to consideration of someone escaping custody.
Correct.
And then the last of at least section 110 B Roman 6 appears to be likely to have resulted from any police operation.
Correct.
Now, can you just explain to the Commission what your understanding of a police operation is?
So I undertake it to be,
Commission,
sorry,
please.
sorry, a broad, it can be a broad implication. So it's more along the lines of a coordinated response. So examples such as looking for a wanted offender that knows you're looking for him and things like that. So it's more than just a normal day-to-day role or function that the police are performing. It's more of something that takes a bit of coordination.
If you were to be dispatched to a domestic, as it were, would you regard that as an operation or
No,
operating under a police function?
That's a function.
And if you were on general duties, which I think you've done in the past,
Yes.
and you came across a person committing a crime, whether it be vandalism or theft or whatever it may be in the public, and you exercised your functions, would you regard that as an operation?
No, I wouldn't.
Now, the other matter that was brought to your attention was under section 111, which was the public interest. Remember being asked some questions about that?
Yes, I do.
And can I ask, in the context of a critical incident assessment, whether or not it has sufficient public interest, what are the kind of things that you turned your mind to?
So I think if it's, I guess it's about a high profile person involved, such as a member of parliament or, someone who's well known. If there is a clear failure by police to do something, then certainly that would meet that public interest test. Or in other occasions has been done about a particular group in the community, whether that's by race or demographic.
Right. Now, if we just move to the second topic that I want to ask you about, and that is when there is a homicide, and we know that's what we're speaking about in this case, putting aside whether or not it's characterised as being a critical incident, is it incumbent upon the police to obtain and secure all evidence that's available to them?
Yes.
Relevant to the homicide, I
Yes.
presume, Superintendent.
Would that also include canvassing the area within which the acts that gave rise to that characterisation for things like CCTV footage?
Yes, it would.
And you're aware that in this case there was some CCTV footage captured?
Yes.
And that was in the context of the homicide investigation?
Correct.
And there was some discussion with you about whether or not evidence, as it were, got stale if it was a long period of time before it was characterised as a critical incident.
Correct.
Is there anything in your mind that you can point the Commissioner to that would not otherwise be captured in the proper administration and investigation of a homicide?
No, as it would cross over to a critical incident.
Yes.
So the only thing I think, as we discussed, would be the drug and alcohol testing.
Yes.
And I guess first-hand memory of the people involved.
Right.
I guess any other tangible stuff, such as your crime scene, your canvassing, your CCTV and things like that, that's set in stone.
Okay. Now, if I can just move to the final subject matter. You were at home on the early hours of the morning that you were called about this matter.
Correct.
And I assume that you remember, at least loosely, that you took a phone call that inspired you to get out of bed and get busy and return to your duties,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
Now, having returned to your duties, did I understand your evidence to say that you attended upon the scene where the deceased was?
Correct.
Now, having attended upon the scene, can you just tell the Commissioner what you saw when you first arrived on the scene?
So there was a number of police standing around the rear car park. There was police tape cordoning off that area. Then I walked down to where the deceased was located. I saw there was a lot of clothing, sort of household things that would normally be donated to something like like that area, like the Salvation Army. That was all strewn across sort of this. I would call it like an enclosed, like a smoking area or a breakout area for potentially the people that work in the St. Vincent's, in the Salvation Army.
Right, and when you're saying enclosed, what enclosed that space?
So there was 2 gates and a fence, and I think from memory there was some kind of lean-to potentially across like a type of roof structure. I can't recall specifically what that was, but I have an understanding that there was some kind of shelter.
Now, clearly I don't want to re-traumatise you, but if I can ask you to take your mind back to that particular early hours of the morning, and you went through the first gate, I assume?
Correct.
And then you were confronted by a space before you got to the next gate?
Correct.
Can you estimate for us, from your own mind, we've got a map from previous proceedings, but from your own mind, was it a metre or a couple of metres, or?
It was a few metres. It was more than a metre or 2 into the second gate, I recall.
And the second gate, what was the nature of it?
There was another area which was several metres sort of long and maybe 2 metres wide. I have a recollection that it might have been like I'm trying to indicate with my hands, but like an indentation of the building perhaps.
Yes.
That's the recollection I have, because I do recall when I walked through that second gate, it was still very difficult to identify the person who was deceased.
Now, the deceased, was she left in situ, as it were?
She was.
And did she have any clothes or any of these items that you've discussed on top of her?
Yes, she did.
And you obviously, given that it had been determined a crime scene, had an entitlement to enter those enclosed premises.
Correct.
In the absence of that, do you have a power to go in there and have a look around?
No, we don't.
That's the re-examination, thank you.
Thank you. Mr Smart, did you have any questions you wanted to ask this witness?
No.
Ms Sullivan, did you have any questions?
Only very, very briefly. Superintendent, are you aware that there's a definition of a police operation in the LECC Act?
I could not tell you offhand, but I'm sure there would be a definition.
I'll just read the definition to you. Police operation means any activity engaged in by a police officer while exercising the functions of a police officer other than an activity for the purpose of a search and rescue operation. Pretty broad.
Very broad.
Not quite in accordance with your understanding, can I suggest?
Yep, that's fair call.
Okay,
Fair call.
nothing further.
And Superintendent, you were asked about your right to go into the Salvation Army through the gates, shall we say. And I accept what you say, that as entitled to go if there's a crime scene. Had those officers attending decided to get out of the car, so let me take you back, they'd had a call from 000 saying woman being bashed behind the Salvation Army building. Had they decided to get out of the car and at least have a look through that pool fence, and if they'd seen Mr Huber further along, and I realise there's a number of, would they have had the power, do you think, to have gone in?
Yes.
And what would be the basis of their power to have gone through that pool fence?
It could be anything from a prevent the breach of the peace or investigate a breach of the peace to investigate a crime that may have occurred. clearly if they identify that Mr Hoover had no lawful right to be there himself,
I
he was
see.
committing a crime.
Yes. Okay. And I think Officer C has given other evidence that he was aware that there was some domestic violence charges against Mr Hoover. Would that have been a basis for...
If they'd identified who he was at that time.
Yes, I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
To investigate an offence.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Anything arising from that?
Just apropos of your questioning, Commissioner, just in relation to section 9(1) subsection B, that's the emergency power to enter...
LEPRA.
Of LEPRA, I'm sorry, jumping between the acts. The emergency power where police officer may enter a premises if they believe on reasonable grounds that a person has suffered significant physical injury. So that would have been a very express power.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think... Was there anything from that, Mr Collins? And Superintendent Tanner can be released from his summons,
Yes.
Ms Sullivan?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Superintendent, and I'm sorry that this is a repeat performance for you. And perhaps I can say I certainly acknowledge from this Commission's experience that these investigations are difficult for the officers that are called, but that any scrutiny of their conduct always causes anxiety and stress, even if the officers are quite confident that they've done everything that they could. When one's conduct is under intense scrutiny of that kind, it is always difficult. So I appreciate the stress that perhaps has caused you, but that causes any officers who are involved in critical incident investigations.
I appreciate it, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Then the next witness is Superintendent Tracy Chapman. Commissioner, would you permit me a 5-minute break? I simply want to raise one matter and literally 5 minutes.
Before we go back.
Before we go, we call Superintendent Chapman.
Yes, and there was an application made before the luncheon adjournment, which I was going to provide some brief reasons about. Do you want to do that after your break, Ms Sullivan?
Yes, if that's convenient, Commissioner.
Thank you.